I'm fine with the ESL doing it. It's more like if you're G2, you really want to get them to stop because it's kind of crazy how bad they sound every single time. And it's like once you want to hear something real, something that actually means something, rather than just like a half-assed cheerleader in the
But they're a
server,
vibes team, bro. They're just they're like, and
but
that's
it's not even
a meme.
vibes. It's like, like sometimes you can, yeah, of course, like when they made the great run and stuff like that. But that's like, you're hyped because you're winning, but then you need to bring them up and you're like, yeah, bro, but we just need to get some rounds. I'm like, that's a
but that is their problem, dude. They're high level pugging, Striker.
Yeah.
They're high level pugging.
Changing quickly. Shoot up.
The world is changing, but one thing remains the same: victories with 1xBet.
Sell in-game items at the best prices in just a couple of clicks. We are the biggest instant sell service for in-game items like Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, and Rust. Easy selling process and instant withdrawal of funds to the most popular payment methods. More than 140,000 deals and 50,000 active sellers every month. Use promo code HLTV5 and get a 5% bonus on the sale of your skins. Skin Place. Sell items now.
Since the dawn of CSGO, we have been there. Observers of all that competition can reveal. Elation, fear, triumph and heartache reach out from every frame. From the small studios and conference rooms to the epic arenas, the feeling is still the same. We live and breathe this game. This was CSGO Through the Lens. Buy now at hltv.org/shop.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Counter-Strike fans across the globe, welcome back to another episode of HLTV Confirmed. It's been a while, and as usual, we'll kick things off with the sponsors. Quick shout out to Skin Place. Head over there if you're in the market to sell skins, Skin Place. And 1xBet, remember to gamble responsibly. Tonight, on my left, I've got Prof. On my right, I've got Striker. And on Striker's right, he has Nero. Gentlemen, we've assembled here today to create a new version of the Powerpuff Girls. I don't know if the Powerpuff Girls was 3 or 4, but we need a name. Prof, do you have one?
Enjoyable young guys, for example.
Okay, I think I'm probably past the threshold of young. 35 is like middle-aged, right?
I feel like we're pushing the boundaries of youngness, just like Forest and Neo and Device now are pushing it in Counter-Strike. We are pushing it in terms of like masculinity.
How did Device get lumped in with
That's
Forest?
what I was thinking as well. It's like
he's like 30 now.
They're like 6 years apart or something.
I mean, they did their part. They're no longer actively playing, and now it's Device.
He's literally 7 years younger than Forest, man. What are you talking about?
Forest like hasn't been playing for three years, so
yeah, but Device has. So what's your point?
The point is, in a few years, like Device is already past the prime of a player from. He's like past.
So basically,
28.
everybody about 28. It doesn't matter if they're 40 or 29. It's the same thing in your eyes, I guess, right?
I mean, that's how it used to work on, like FIFA career modes, FM career modes. Once they're past 25, just sell them, just instantly gone, and wind up the same thing here.
Look, Harry, you're joining us. You're our first guest since we've had the refresh. So I think what season is this, Prof?
This is season 7.
You're the first guest of season 7.
Wow, it's a true honor. Everyone cares about the seasons. Everyone knows about the seasons. I mean, at least this one has the rebrand. This is like a, it's an actual kickoff.
It's a real reboot. Like, it actually matters. Now, look, a quick little information dump for everybody playing at home. We have a lot to talk about tonight. We're going to go over IEM Rio, all the stuff in the recent news. Obviously, the 32 team major for next year. There was an update a while ago that we missed out on because of all these events and stuff that's been going on. We'll have a chat about all of this. But I just want to let everybody know in about 15 days' time, at the start of November, the HLTV Confirmed crew, people might have seen it. There was a tweet put out by these guys a while back. We're going to be heading over to Stockholm in Sweden to go to RedBull's Gibaway. That's G-I-B, not G-I-V-E, Gib, G-I-B. And it's a bit of an event that I think it's like, I don't know how I'd frame it, but I feel like it's more for adults, Prof, because there's like a wine tasting, there's like a spa day, there's going to be some like an NIP wingman tournament. So, hopefully NIP players are there because we love NIP.
And we could also join the list of people that beat NIP recently, which are kind of cool. I think that would be a nice achievement to add to the list.
I make sure I'll bring my peripherals. We'll get in shape for like 15 days to get in the death match. But likes of Freiburg and some other Swedish individuals are going to be there. We're going to be doing some co-streaming for the Blast World Finals, which will be going on in Sentosa in Singapore. So you guys will be able to watch along with us if you're interested. And we'll be doing a classic HLTV Confirmed episode from the facilities out there. Striker will be there, Prof will be there, I'll be there, Lucas will be there, and we'll be throughout. I think it's like the first and second, the days that we'll be doing things. Right?
I think so.
Or is it second or third?
And first. I don't know. It's gonna be that weekend, like the first weekend in November, end of October.
Yeah. So if people want to check that out, that's going to be in a couple weeks' time, and we might see you there.
There's a few tickets left for the event. I think what you tried to describe is it's kind of like a fancy DreamHack, like a fancy BYOC, but you don't bring your own PC, and the bathrooms are actual bathrooms.
Yeah, you don't have to take a shit outside. Yeah, that's kind of nice. All right. Well, look, we do have a lot to talk about tonight, guys. Obviously, Sakal has just been made public to everybody. Everyone's been watching Fresh Spawns and Running Man, been playing it over the last 2 weeks. But it's great now for us to all get our hands on Sakal. Have you guys paid for the DayZ DLC today?
No.
No.
I thought you were talking about an anime or something, or maybe talking about Amcal.
Wow.
When we're talking about NIP, Amcal is always there around the corner lurking, so you never know.
Fair enough. Just me and the boys then. Well, look, let's talk about Counter-Strike, I suppose, in that matter. Let's kick things off. We'll start with IEM Rio, which just concluded. Quick TLDR, NAVI won. That's essentially what happened. But no, we had 16 of the best 21 teams in the world in attendance. It was just one of those classic IEM Masters level events, 250K, 16 playoff, and there's a lot to talk about. Obviously, let's focus on the gameplay first, shall we, gents? And then we'll get into, I guess, a few more of the outside things like the crowd and all that, or no Rio Major, or Rio Major potentially wanting to return in the next couple of years, all that kind of jazz. But Striker, people on the HLTV forums, and you've been lumped into this as well, Nero. You guys are, and me too. Apparently, we're Navi haters. So, as the official Navi hating fan club, what negative things do you have to say about their win, Striker?
Well, obviously, I mean, I kind of ate my words after the last episode. I said that they would probably not make it to the final again. To be fair, I mean, how close did they get to that happening? Like 2 rounds or something against Heroic, and realistically, it probably should have in that series.
They should have lost to Heroic, but they didn't, because their mental is the best in the game right now. I don't think that's even up for question.
Yeah, literally 1 round away from my prediction coming true. That's unfortunate,
But you were still wrong.
Of course, yeah. I mean, it was one of those things where, like, I mean, people were just taking things out of context, and they absolutely didn't take into consideration the fact that I said about 30 good things about Navi in that same episode, that they were like, guys said they're going to be shit in Rio. I said literally that they're still going to do well. I just don't think they're going to make the final again. And so it's just one of those things, I don't really care about that, but it's obviously a good thing for Navi that they can do this even on a, let's say, a bad week. Because, obviously people wouldn't have expected them to lose to FURIA. People wouldn't have expected them to get to a position where they could have lost to Heroic. But obviously that's what happened. And that was still somewhat surprising. But when I saw the playoff bracket, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be wrong. Like there's no way they're not going to make it to the final.
Well, they got pushed by MOUZ, that ancient. Obviously, they had to bring things back from like a 10-2 first half to show another great comeback, which is becoming a bit of a trademark of NAVI. Now, Harry, look, you're not with us every week. We give our opinions on NAVI every event. What's your overall thoughts on this team and where they're at after the Rio victory?
I mean, I think it was a while ago now. I think it was before Cologne. We did like an article, and it was like, pick your surprise for Cologne. And I picked Navi, and everyone in the news team just hated me for this, like instantly. It was just like, how can you say Navi going to surprise like world number 2? And I picked them to surprise because I think even then, I think it was obvious they were like very, very legit. And I think this final streak is just kind of, it's nice to have a team that is kind of based on team play and fundamentals again. Because every time G2 wins an event, it's like, okay, great, well done. But I feel like this is a bit of a Call of Duty team. And then whereas Navi, that feels like a proper Counter-Strike team. It feels like we're playing it the right way. Like the roles make sense, the team makes sense. When you actually watch them play, it's like they're earning their victories. And now they have got that aura as well of like the comebacks, like you're saying. Well, I just love watching that team. Have done for a while. And I think, yeah, just after the mid-season break, like they've just come into it, and you can just see Blade's footprints all over it. And it's great. It's nice to have a team that's actually a clear number 1 again.
Yeah, I think you said something there that is slightly divisive to a portion of the audience. And Prof, as the number 1 G2 fan on the number 1 G2 loving podcast, he's compared Navi to G2, obviously not with any similarities, but he essentially, and I hold a similar opinion to Harry here. The G2 are a team on their best day who can win, but on their worst day can look fucking dog shit. What's your synopsis of G2 and the way that they approach the game?
I mean, it is exactly like that. I mean, you can't really make any crazy conclusions that are not like they're based on great individuals. And when these great individuals play great, things can happen. But they also have the possibility to lose games and look completely out of it. I was just rewatching some bits of the Eternal Fire game that they lost in Rio
on Anubis,
and Anubis, and then Barrage after that. And it was just funny listening to your cast and like your energy during that, like just the frustration throughout is like, these guys should be playing better. And it's not like, I want Eternal Fire to lose and G2 to win because they are favorites. It's like, what kind of game am I getting here as a Counter-Strike fan? Like, why aren't these guys giving me anything to work with? They're like, there's this valley in this cast, which is like, let's see how it goes. And it says, oh, Eternal Fire kind of winning. Oh, this is nice for Eternal Fire. We could get kind of getting excited for them. But you can't actually go through this whole game and the whole map without getting frustrated by G2, by the way, like some of the rounds that they lost, just like someone just not watching an angle, someone walking in, getting like kills from behind, like absolutely untradeable plays, like Snacks being either left on an island or running through a smoke or doing something like, who even wants this? Did someone call for this play? Because no one is actually following up on it either. And like losing 3v3s. I looked up some of the like the FTU that we have, like Firework traded utility, big sheet, and your eyes just draw to the standouts, the best and the worst. And G2 obviously just played 3 maps, but their 5v4 was like 40%. So like getting an entry and then winning only 40% of these rounds is like insanely bad, like closing and mid rounds from a team that has like this caliber of players. And then some of these rounds that they win is like Monacy 1v4ing and shit like this. As like
MOUZ with a big 3K or whatever.
Yeah. So I mean, when this team came together, I said they could fluke a major win, and like nothing has changed. Like everything we saw,
they could still win on any given Sunday.
Is kind of the same. I still feel the same about the team as I did when they came in. Obviously, I did not expect them to win Blast over Navi, in that kind of in a best of 5, but we just saw the complete reset of expectations and the reality setting in of G2,
Yeah. Now, I derailed us there a little bit. Let's do this. Let's stick just with the headlines for Navi, because I don't think anything's really changed. I think the same conversation exists. One of the reasons Striker was saying he didn't expect them to make the final is because how tired they are going deep in all of these events and stuff, right? That fatigue, it's there. It was acknowledged in an interview, a clickbait interview, I believe, but it was acknowledged. And you can hear it within the comms. JL talking about, they're bickering a little bit. Maybe they're fed up of each other. And this is now their 6th consecutive grand final. And I think at that point, not only are you getting deeper and deeper in the playbook, right? You're probably at the point as well where was I going with this? Oh, where the individuals, like their moves as individuals are starting to be a little bit harder to pull off, right? Because you have things that you like to as a player. And you see this from Navi, I thought, throughout the tournament. In like the VP game is a great example, just how fucking horny they were for fights. Like they weren't giving over space. They were like, oh, we know where you are, we're going to run at you, we're going to take Jules. And I thought that was just against VP because of the nature of them operating so well in the fog of war. But Navi kept that up throughout a lot of their games. They would, as soon as they knew that there was just going to be one player taking map control, they'd always go for that. Or even if it was 2, they would go for the re-peak and just completely look for fights all the time. But for Navi, this break now before the World Finals, hopefully they can get some rest, right? Because this is a problem that FaZe fell into earlier on in the year, right? Like they kind of fell off. And they couldn't really find that form again after so many events and so many finals. And with the most important event of the season coming up, and they are the reigning major champions, they've only got limited time to get their shit back together. So does this win, right? It can't bode anything more than well, right? Because it's like, okay, well, they're at the bottom of the barrel and they still win the event. But do we worry about them down the home stretch? Are they going to be figured out? Are they going to have time to add to their playbook of the next couple of events? Or what are you guys thinking for Navi down the stretch now? Don't say anything negative, Striker.
No, I was just going to say that obviously that, like, as you say, that break is good for them, but that at the same time, it's kind of, is it one of those things where they also lose some momentum based on that? Because it's kind of been event to event for a lot of teams. It's not just been them that haven't had that much time to catch up with the playbook and all that stuff. They kept going deeper than everybody else, of course. And so those off days for the other teams were more prevalent. But still, I mean, you have now 2 weeks. Maybe the worry is more that, like, how much of a focus they're going to put on World Final. You know, are they just going to use the next 2 weeks to, as you say, kind of take a break and just chill and just decide that, okay, World Final, whatever happens there doesn't matter. Our focus is going to be on the major, which is obviously, you know, what everybody should do. I mean, nobody's probably going to look at World Final and think about peaking there. They're going to want to do it at the major, right? So in some ways, they're probably going to use it more as a kind of, as for more practice in a way. Obviously, you know, all these teams will look to win that event. It's not like they were just going to decide to throw it or whatever, but it's obviously going to be kind of on the back burner rather than something they put a lot of focus on, put a lot of prep for. They're probably, you know, people are making jokes about strat saving and all that stuff, but, you know, they're not going to show everything at World Final, you know, at least, especially if they're working towards something new that they will have for 2 weeks later for the RMR and the major.
Did we hear anything about their plans? Like, do they plan to, I think the boot camp was mentioned before the RMR. So I guess what I would wish to see from them is like have like 3-4 days off and like not talk to each other at all. I think that's something that's necessary. And I can touch on that later. And then go into like online practice, kind of chill for World Finals, and then go into like hardcore mode, because realistically, even depends on which group they are in as well. Obviously, it's better to be in the RMRB, I would say. The last one, so then it's like you have more time to prepare and less time blocked out in China. I think that could be like a great ramp up, and they have shown before Copenhagen as well. They went for a super long boot camp, went through the whole major to the final, and it didn't have negative consequences as it sometimes does for some teams that are like that go on a 2-week boot camp straight to the major. Like a lot of the teams like to have maybe a week or 10 days max boot camp, have a few days at home, and then go back to the major to have this like reset between the two. But this Navi team has proven that they can do insanely long duration together. But just talking about like the whole mood in the team and everything, like the interview from JL, and there was also an interview from JL during the group stage before the FURIA game. But it's one of those that got, for some reason,
this was the clickbait one, right?
No, the one, this is one that he did with Banks.
Okay. Oh yeah.
And then they played it between the maps, and I hate this meta.
I hate it too.
All TOs are doing something now, and it's like completely normal. I don't understand.
It's out of context. It's dog shit.
It's
I've
so
mentioned
weird
it to him as well.
It's so weird because people just look like idiots, right? It's one thing if you show it in the context, like, this was recorded before, but this little bit here is valuable, right? But they show it. It just feels like if you don't really pay attention, it just feels like he just did this interview between maps. And it's like, yeah, we're gonna destroy them, and then they get like 13-3'd by FURIA. You know, this kind of stuff. It just feels very wrong to me. But that aside, just a little rant.
It is wrong.
He was already speaking about the game they played before. Let me just remember who they played. Liquid, and there was some like little bickering or little like comments between Navi players during the game, and Banks asked him about that, and he said like, yeah, we're getting maybe a bit tired of each other, but it's nothing like toxic. It's more like we were being very direct, but maybe now people are getting a bit more sensitive about it because everyone's kind of, you know, at the edge of their limits in terms of like being together all the time, and they need a little break. So that was kind of starting to spill over. I think this all kind of plays into what Strager was saying before the event, that this is a reason why they might not, you know, make it to the final, and then they get blown up kind of by FURIA in the group stage. The Heroic game is very close. You know, there's a lot of little indicators that this Navi team is not 100%, and they were not 100% for sure, but they still managed to win. So that's like a huge marker of a championship team for me, you know?
Yeah, that alongside with the comebacks, and I think that it's undoubtedly the best team in the world, right? That's not up for conversation at the moment. I think the best system by miles, like the next team who I would put close. Well, actually, I don't know if that would be a fair. Like if I was to say the next team, I think it would be Vitality, right? But in terms of like what are we talking regarding the system of Vitality, I don't think it's anywhere near as deep as something like a Navi system, right? I think we'd have a tough time trying to even identify that with teams that are delivering at a high level. Harry, do you have any general Navi thoughts that you want to get out before we shift over to MOUZ? I don't want to spend all night glazing Navi for another week.
Yeah, I mean, I was just like Ema said the same thing, right? He said like literally MVP interview as well, and he still said like, I can't wait to go home and sleep. Like that's his like initial reaction. So yeah, I think to agree with you guys, I think they just need to go home, chill a bit. But if we're going on to MOUZ anyway, like I think in terms of system, they're an interesting one because Shui's basically talked about how he's ripped up a lot of the old system for this tournament as well. And I think
did you notice anything that seemed crazy different with him saying that?
I mean, the Xertion changes,
we
right?
Xertion a bit, right? Like not positionally, loads of stuff. Like Dust 2, they changed for Pro League, I think. Like Brolan moved off long and stuff. So that was a while ago still. But yeah, I think we mentioned in the news chat at some point that Xertion was lurking a lot more. And I think that's kind of in trend with these other kind of aggressive riflers. Like when you think of Ema or Nico or someone, like they take the space, and then in the late round, in the mid round, it's the lurkers who are doing the entering, like on B or A, and then the person who's in mid, like say on Ancient, like Ema's always trying to get in red room. He's trying to do these lurk plays. In Mirage, he's coming up connector and things. I think they're trying to do that with Xertion a little bit more in terms of you take the space, but then once you're in the space, you're the one who takes the time to actually push on and like turn that into flanks rather than them being raw entry fraggers like MOUZ is for G2. So
yeah, no, I think that's fair enough. I think like that's been something that's well, I don't know how. Like I remember when Hampus was taking mid control. I know he was an in-game leader on Ancient. This is a long time ago now. Like he would then be the guy. Yeah, right. They would then end up having to be that lurk element, right, and take those timings when it's up to them. But yeah, for MOUZ, we'll shift over to them. I think Duncan made a tweet. I don't have it in front of me, but the sentiment was essentially this would be a good time for MOUZ to have a good result like this because the dialogue was shifting. Right, the dialogue about MOUZ was shifting to, oh, okay, well, these guys can only really just do it in the studio. They're not even playing good Counter-Strike in the second half of the season, second half of the year, sorry. And I think that the general framing of them was starting to change. This is a good result for them. Obviously, any stage wins they can get are good wins. Going into the final, look, realistically, they should have pushed it to 5. Right, you can't be losing a 10-2, can you? Well, I guess the Navi you can be, but I think for me, and this just reinforces it. How fucking good is Jimmy, man? Like, he's so good. I think like I like watching Torji. I think he's one of the impactful players for MOUZ in the bigger games. But I like watching like Jimmy's great, and talking to Jimmy's great. He's just he's just a dude. Like it's really cool watching this kid just have this type of success. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets poached next year by a bigger team whatsoever. Just the classic MOUZ cycle to continue. But
I mean, there was a bit of a, like, there was kind of a comment from him about that as well, but not exactly disputing anything or like confirming anything. It was more like, for now, I'm happy with where I am or something like that, which is, also kind of maybe speaks to there being at least some talks, behind the scenes. But I mean, maybe that's just me reading into it.
It was Banks' post game, right? And he just, I kind of put him on the spot just after a loss or something. And Jimmy was
rough for that.
It was difficult for Jimmy to answer it. But he didn't confirm or like, because there was an option there to say like, okay, MOUZ, we've turned the corner, like system changes, came second, like we're back. Like this is a really young core. Like there's not many upgrades to that core, to be honest. Like he could have shut it down and he just didn't. So
yeah,
it'll be an interesting one.
It's curious, I know this is a little bit of a tangent, but now that I've like started hearing about some movement behind the scenes and stuff like that, like it is awkward that this is happening with like a major happening in a month and a half's time, or something like that. Like it is, we've gotten in a place where, especially because contracts were set up in a way where they end at the end of a season or in the middle of a season during the summer. So they either end summer or winter. Those contracts were not set up with majors being at the end of the season in mind. Like everybody figured that those were just going to be where they were before, which was kind of like middle of the season-ish, and so you would have a few months after the major, to go into those talks and to figure out if you're going to move somewhere else, in that time, or if you're going to stay with the team that you were with. But now people are getting into those conversations with the major looming, and that's something that there's going to need to be a shift in that. And obviously not in terms of
mid-year.
No, I'm not talking about
mid-season.
Well, that could also be that, but it's still going to be the case for if you do it mid-year, it's still going to be the case for the first major, right? So it doesn't really matter. I think it's probably more like mid-season, like just before. Well, it's hard to say. I mean, it's always going to be difficult to find one specific place when the change windows are exactly
because you also
the
can't
ones
change
right after a major
in March, because then you're like just just like the RMR, or not RMR, but like the invites and everything for the major are already going to be very super close, So
I mean, I think that's fine now, especially with the report that I released with the RMRs getting cut, because I mean the ranking doesn't really care as long as you keep your core. I mean, you stay on the same points if you change one or two players. It's just you have to avoid changing the core. So you don't really have to be worried about missing out on an invite just because you change one or two players in the middle of a season, And then you will still have.
It just matters when the cutoff is. That's
I was going to say, like, I don't know when that is, but I imagine it's at least 2 months because of visas and all that stuff. Things. There needs to be a pretty decent lead time for the major, for everybody to figure everything out.
But from like a performance point of view, I feel like you want to change right after the major. That's
course,
when you want to change.
But that's
so
like Dota with TI, right? Like when the TI ends, they all just fucking change rosters. That's
they're like the teams. This teams legitimately disband like after majors. They just everything gets blown up.
But that's going to happen to us with I guess we won't have that after this year, but that's going to happen like with the teams that don't qualify for the major, right? They're already going to start making moves after the RMR and all of that. But I guess let's cap off about MOUZ. My general sentiment was the one about, hey, this is a good time for them to be showing some better form, because it puts them back in the conversation. Obviously, they need to back it up with another solid result at the Blast World Finals. But again, going into the RMRs that you were touching on with NAVI, same type of thing. How much do you reserve? How much do you not show? Do you just try and set your players up with basic openings and not go too deep into anything? So
my question for this MOUZ lineup is like, what is actually lacking? Like, who is there a player? Or is there two players that need to step up? Is there something that needs to change?
Like,
I feel like, I feel like it's hard to really pinpoint, be like, this is one thing that's not good for MOUZ, which is like kind of a double-edged sword. On one side, it's like, well, that means it's more or less fine, right? Everything is pretty good. But if there's also not an obvious problem, then there's not one thing to fix. And then if they don't really get over this hump, it can boil over to like frustration, I would say. And then also the angle of other teams potentially wanting to poach. But the question is also like, I don't know how long Jimmy's contract is. Like I don't know if they re-signed a new one when he went from like the academy to the main team, or how that's working exactly. But I would expect them to want to hang on to literally everyone. Like there is no reason for them to want to change, right? So it's about someone coming in with a lot of money that's the only way the team gets disrupted.
But also like, so I don't know, like if a player gets an offer from a team that they perceive to be better, right? What happens otherwise is these players just bench themselves. Right? Like you've seen that. That's the like throw all your toys out of the pram approach. It's like, well, you won't let me go. I'll just bench myself. Like, fuck you.
I think that also depends on the player and the team and the relationship between the two. Like I don't know. I would be surprised if most of these players would be willing to do this, considering their connection to MOUZ. You know, that's why I see it in other orgs. I would see it more likely to happen. But you know, we don't know what's happening behind the scenes. Maybe like these people are super unhappy because they're on shitty small contracts coming from academy team, and everyone's getting like 3 times the salary of them. Like I can't really confirm or deny this, but I don't have this feeling about MOUZ. So I'm very curious how this is going to develop further, because I understand the idea is like, why wouldn't Jimmy go to Falcons with Nico and fucking, I don't know, Simple or some shit.
We've already kind of seen this with arrozdoce, right? Because like from the outside, like seems like a nice quiet kid or something, and then his contract's up in December. Like as any like sensible player would, he starts to explore his options, and then the team just mutually bench him. So then it's like, well, you're just hurting yourself at the same time as well.
Sure.
Yeah,
that's
a
and that's what I don't want to
story.
happen to MOUZ. Is like all the players kind of in the shop window themselves, and then it just ends up breaking up a team where, like realistically in 3 years, like a core of Shuey, Zershan, Jimmy, like that's just still amazing. Even if Zershan like stage stuff isn't always perfect, like that's a core that I think I'd much rather see stay together than break apart like after this December or something.
Yeah, well, like Striker was saying, the conversations, like at least from what I understand, which is from someone who heard something from someone,
right.
things, but from Rio, right, we're hearing things, we're hearing conversations at beginning, you know, like people are exploring.
I'm hearing
options.
the same. I mean, there's talk like all the way to the top.
This isn't MOUZ exclusive, by the way.
Yeah, this is all the way to the top and are kind of almost across the board, where like some discussions will be happening, even if it's just organizational level at this point. You know, it's not necessarily touching the like concrete players or anything like that, or they're making some commitments right now, but at least there's talk. Like people are talking.
Yes,
for sure.
So like I agree with the sentiment of it's a bit of a shame that this happens because of the timing, and it might jeopardize teams with the major runs. But then I guess that's also about these guys being professionals at what they do.
For sure.
But also when you're dealing with teenagers and people in their young 20s, that's also a kind of a tougher ask as well. But the general sentiment seems to be MOUZ have shown some good form, looking better, and hopefully they can have a strong end to the season. I think like, I don't know. It should have gone 5. It feels like that's all that I'm left with. That's the taste that I'm left with in my mouth.
Yeah.
But like that Ancient, as much as it was a disappointing score wise, and there were a few rounds where I felt like it's not really great for MOUZ. For the most part, it was Navi playing very well.
Yes.
I didn't feel like it was like a giga choke level of Counter-Strike. Some stuff where I don't know, MOUZ was playing very horrible, just like going
like Heroic's choke. Heroic choke, I think. Yeah. But they're not the same caliber or quality.
To be honest, also, just to touch on them, that Heroic, that round, the 3v4 that Navi won at like 11-11, 11-10 something, where bit is long and 2 players are coming short, and Dexter is like holding this angle, and it's like...
Yeah, that's tough to watch.
So many ways that Heroic wins this round, except like this exact sequence of plays from Navi that allow them to get like exact timings to get 1 free kill here, some space over there, and just win the round. It's like you look at that, and 9 times out of 10, Heroic win that round. You would expect it, right? But Navi just plays it perfectly and make the comeback.
Had to get fortunate, obviously. With like that's the thing, right? Like if you are going to make those missteps, Navi are able to punish, which I think was kind of cool to see a couple of times. Okay, Prof, you were talking about the G2 stuff earlier, right? Does anybody else have anything they want to add? I think
but it was so fucking fast that you don't even remember what happened to them, man. It was just like Nico just suddenly decides he's not a good player, and it's like when you have so many disappearances happening at the same time and everything looking so disjointed, that like it was kind of crazy to see it with considering what a week before that they won fall final, you know. So like it's kind of insane that it's almost been like through no fault of their own, G2 have always been looked at as super inconsistent, even though I've been kind of battling that narrative because it's not
fault of their own.
No, because they've been, I told everybody, like, they're making playoffs literally every time. How is that inconsistent? Like, okay, they're not always going to be in the title contending form, but if you're always making playoffs, I think you can't really make a case that you're not consistent. Of
What
course,
about
you can,
now?
you can, that's what I'm saying. Like, but now it, like, they just go from this mega high, you know, where, I mean, I feel like they kind of also beat the odds in a way where, you know, I don't think that they were supposed to win. But they did anyway, and then they come back to this like mega low, you know. So it's hard to make sense of it, but it does make sense with how kind of fragile the team looks at the moment and their play style. It just doesn't seem like they are super set in what they want to do a lot of the time, and it was just very baffling to see. I honestly remember like 2 maps out of those 3, and barely because of how fast they went out.
I casted their run.
Okay.
I casted the 10-2 first half against Heroic on Dust 2. And then the only reason they started winning rounds is like Monacy and MOUZ bailed them out like a 2v5, and like everything they won was just individual based. It was like a round where Shush walks through the long smoke, and then MOUZ somehow catches him and then gets another 3 kills within the round. And then they went on to play EF, and it's like Anubis. And one of the only rounds that they won within the first half was a Monacy 1v4, and then it was another MOUZ round or some shit. And there was a point where we had one of those listens in, and Snacks was like, all right, I'm going to start calling now. We're just going to wait out the utility or whatever. That was like halfway through the game. So I'm like, well,
I'm going to start calling.
Because of that halfway through the game, like that just tells me to just let the players play. And then if they win the rounds, great. If they don't, your in-game leader has wasted 4 or 5 rounds not being able to start establishing anything within the map. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
When are G2 going to complain about Taz being on all the listens, by the way? It's like,
bro,
he's getting,
mate, they
he's
should
getting
lay off though.
crazy.
Just stop playing those fucking things, man. Like,
I feel like
I'm fine with ESL doing it. It's more like if you're G2, you really want to get them to stop, because it's kind of crazy how bad they sound every single time. And it's like, once you want to hear something real, you know, something that actually means something, rather than just like a half-assed cheerleader in the
But they're a
server,
vibes
you know?
team, bro. They're just like, and
but
that's
it's not even
a meme.
vibes. It's like, you know, like sometimes you can, yeah, of course, like when they made the great run and stuff like that. But that's like, you know, you're hyped because you're winning, but then you need to bring them up, and you're like, yeah, bro, but we just need to get some rounds. I'm like, that's a.
But that is their problem, dude. They're high level pugging, Striker.
Yeah,
they're high level pugging.
That's true.
They have basic openers, and their individuals get them kills. That's it.
Chad, please, you're there. You're in these productions. Is there an agenda from the tournament organizers to get Taz sacked?
I think I said it on a cast. I was like, man, someone in production must hate Taz. Like, what is going on here? Because
you don't have to put any listen-ins. You don't have to put any listen-ins during the whole game. There are games, there's teams you don't hear anything from
because they don't speak English.
How are we getting the worst of the worst consistently across ESL and Blast? Like, absolute nonsense.
But you can share the same sentiment that Taz is sharing in all of these in ways that are just better, is the thing. Like,
yeah,
when you listen to like a Shui or Alexi, like that Alexi voice comm in the final when they're like,
the last map, right?
They're losing the ancient, like they're losing 10-2, but when you're watching it, it's like, okay, they lost 2 1v1s, they lost a 3v1. Like the economy was low all half. They won 1 round. It was like 9-2, and MOUZ were like basically eco. And it's like, when you listen to Alexi in that voice comm, you can really feel the confidence coming off him of like, we can come back from this. And then in Taz, it's just, there's just nothing there. Like, I think, like, honestly, the TOs are probably looking for something in these voice comms because they want to like change the narrative, because it is such a big narrative.
Yeah,
but,
by the way, I
like,
also don't believe that.
There's enough timeouts. There would have been something where he said something crazy inspirational, like that they would have shown that instantly if there was. It just can't be there. Like,
that's the thing. Like, I've seen
events now.
Yeah, sorry. I've seen comments where people go like, you know, but it happens in what is it called, Drive to Survive. You know, they always pick out the worst moments and they build a narrative about that. You know, they always are about the clicks. But like ESL, not like this. Like, no matter what you want to think about them as a TO and whatever, ESL and Blast don't do this just to create a completely bullshit narrative, and they will just feed it time and time again, and they will just like purposely not ever include anything real from the guy. Like, they will just not do this. Like, of course, I can't know this because I don't know all the voice comms, you know, but I just know the people who are in the production and all that stuff a lot of the time, and I know how they think about the game, how they want to portray it and all that stuff, and they're not people who are just going to be clickbait effectively, you know, all the time. Like, I know that they're not doing this on purpose.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. So like those, like you really have to start thinking like, is it that bad?
Okay, so look, we have to think of a couple of like, is it a group agreed sentiment that G2 don't really have like a system, like they don't?
Oh yeah.
Bro, the problem is what is the future of this team?
Yeah,
This is
no,
the problem.
but Prof, I understand where there is no future to this team.
There's
Nico's
no
going.
future, but there's also no present.
Look, I want to.
The org though.
The future of the org, keep MOUZ and Monacy. Unfortunately, you need to keep 3 of them. Unfortunately, you need to keep 3. I wish you didn't, but you have to.
You see, this is why we need open qualifiers.
Wild card invites. Look,
6 months not enough for like a team with MOUZ, Monacy,
Bro,
There
it's
would be,
a-
yeah.
around them.
But the problem is
Surely
like
that's
they would
enough to
need
get
it's
in
a
the top
risk.
32.
you need the
it's a
invites
risk.
though, right?
Well, I
play
mean,
the
they could get some invites based on kind of like the wildcard invites. Like some of these invites, some of these events are going to have wildcard invites, and then you can get enough points, to get into the major. But of course, like if you're a top team, you're not going to want to risk missing on the major, or getting yourself in a position where you're only going to rely on these wildcard invites. Like fortunately they are G2, and obviously TOs will be heavily incentivized to have a G2 in their event if they have a way to get them in the
Like
event.
the bounty is a good example.
Yeah, I mean, anything really. I think we don't know what the ESL is going to do, right? But I imagine they would also have some sort of at least a possibility, even if nothing else than EPL. Like there's so many spots there that you can find couple, that will go to some of these new teams that they just want to have like a wildcard sort of system for, So like all these, like there will be ways, especially if you're popular and if you have I think for a wildcard team, you have to be. It still has to comply with some prerequisites. Like
Can't
3.
they also make like 2 changes and then another change in like a month or something?
I mean, at least to keep in the invite circle, yeah. And then like based on those 2 changes, they will get some more results, and that will just improve them. Like of course, it's how teams will go about it, though.
Or use like a sub, get invited with
Stays on the
Hunter.
bench.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Someone in
Exploit
chat,
some rule, man.
Of course. I mean, it is possible. It is.
Get a new
there are
roster,
ways.
man.
There are
and
ways, but
forget about the Nico era. Move on to the Monacy era. Like build around him. Pay him what Nico's earning, and pay MOUZ what Hunter's earning. There you go. Job done. Keep him.
Hunter's looking also really rough. Like some of the plays, just like there's the lack of confidence and the lack of just swag that players play with in CS2 is just not there for him. He just plays too passive, too default Counter-Strike, 1.6 CS player. I think it's just not working, unfortunately.
The reason. Sorry, Harry, go for it, mate.
I was gonna say, like, especially CT, like he just shares too many bomb sites with snacks. Like it's just such a glaring problem on so many maps. But you go on.
I just wanted to kind of pivot back to the Taz thing. I think Taz taking this coaching gig with G2, considering like how the team functions, is probably, I guess, when he took the coaching gig, Hooksy was still there, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of changes what I was about to say, but I think that.
I mean, you think they need somebody tactical?
No, that's not what I'm thinking from Taz's perspective. This is the worst way that you could enter being a coach is this team, because it is like the least coachable team I could think of. Like, no, really, because they're not going to listen and make a system. Like the in-game leader, like I think we attribute most of the Gamer Legion success to Ash, right? Like, and the system he has built, like that when Stacks was there, like, and that's not even a knock at Stacks. Like, I think that this team should function by trying to get the most out of the individuals, but they don't know how to get the most out of the individuals. They don't know what that looks like, right? And that's why, like, in these timeouts, Taz is like on the sinking ship, watching the ship sink and trying to bail water out, but it's pointless.
We need to take out the water, guys.
It's pumping.
We have too much
nothing he
water
can
in the
do.
ship, guys. Guys, we need water outside of the ship.
I just feel bad for him. Like he can't do anything. Like I don't know.
I feel the same for snacks though. Like I feel like it's the exact same thing as like the reason I defended Hooksy for so long is like, well, what IGL is going to come in and stamp a system with Nico, Hunter, Monacy? Like it's just not realistic. And as much as Snacks is like a fairly trash anchor, and he's in way too like many of these important spots, like Pit on Inferno especially, like it's just too important to have
A on
Snacks there.
Anubis, you
A on
can't have
Anubis,
an A
way
on
too
Anubis,
important.
bro.
But in terms of his like IGLing, like they had Alexi and they kicked him after 6 months. Like they don't want a tactical system. Like they just have to. I think what they have to do is just move on. And when you have MOUZ and Nico roles and m0NESY, like even if you have Hunter as your, you know, 4th player for 6 months, that's already just recruit an IGL with a system and buy into it. And obviously it's all going to be around m0NESY, but I think MOUZ is a soldier. MOUZ can do anything. I just think it's one of those situations where any IGL that came in would have ended up being a fairly sideways move. And maybe they just wanted some fragging, but they're not signing Snacks for a system. Like, no, that's not.
But the fragging is not even
and
there.
They didn't get the fragging.
His fucking I don't know, morale is in the dumps. His confidence.
Huxley actually entry'd.
But
Snacks isn't even entry. He just throws flashes and loses clutches.
I mean, Snacks also runs through smokes, but apparently they don't even trade him now. So it's, I don't know.
But I think the confidence thing is super key that you're mentioning, because you can tell he's second guessing every choice he's making, which is not how Snacks does his best work. Snacks is like an intuition player, right? Like who needs to have the confidence to make the play. Right now, it looks like Snacks is trying not to do the wrong thing, which is making him do the wrong thing. Like as soon as you're in your head about Counter-Strike like that, you will continue to make bad plays. Like it just like there was one on Dust 2 that just boggles my mind. Like upper tunnels was smoked. Smoke starts to fade. He transitions close upper tunnels and is going to play near the tall box and jiggle. He has like a smoke or a molly to block. But the problem with that is you're making the assumption that nobody is on the right-hand side behind the box to peek out. Like that jiggle is only to catch them if they're peeking from the left, right? So then you can drop the util high, jump up on the box and get away. Dex is just on the right-hand side with the AWP. He like jiggles twice and gets AWP'd. And it's like, cool.
GG,
like, he's trying to play safe, but it's like, but you didn't even think about what was possible. If it wasn't smoked and you did that, fine. You cleared it with a molly as the smoke's fading, fine. It's just like, I don't know. Look, G2 are fucked. They can still win any event at any point in time, but they're fucked. So that's G2 for you. Cool. I want to get talking about like the bigger picture stuff, but we should give FURIA and Heroic a little bit of time in the spotlight. FURIA continue to look better since the removal of Art and Fallen getting a chance to run the ship. I think obviously the Brazil buff helped them, which is great for Fallen to get to play in front of that crowd. They look dog shit on the stage, but in the group stages, like I think I framed it when I was talking about this during the cast as the games for Heroic and FURIA to get straight into the semis was more important for them than their opponents. Like their opponents, it's not that they weren't trying, don't get me wrong. It's just that those teams in those games, it didn't, like they're already in the playoffs. They already know how to do the hard work, right? Look, NAVI ran the bracket and won the thing. So I think those wins are great, like confidence boosters for both Heroic and FURIA down the stretch. It's great to see something good from Heroic because they were floundering pretty much all year long. But all in all, the conversation for me doesn't change massively for either of these teams, really. Okay. They're still in a similar place to where I had them pinned before. There's this group of like 6 to 8 teams that I would lump them in with that, you know, can have a good event and then a bad event and a good event and then a bad event.
Like the Virtus Pros or Astralis has, you know, some of these.
I'd even go like crazy and probably say something stupid like 9Z or, you know, like the
Complexity
Mongols
or whatever. Yeah,
exactly. Right. And that's starting to balloon out a little bit. Like the quality of player is probably not there, but what the delivery of the team can be was anybody like, obviously the runs they had at these events were good, but are you guys thinking this is now an upward trajectory for them to finish the year with on either of these rosters, FURIA or Heroic? That is,
I don't know. I was kind of locking in on the FURIA MOUZ game in the playoffs. I'm like, okay, FURIA showed something.
That's when you took notice, huh?
I was kind of paying attention, but not like super in depth. And I'm like, okay, I'll watch this MOUZ game, see what's going on. Where's the quality coming from? Like I saw some glimpses, some like nice team play, some like flashes from Fallen, stuff like that. WATO was doing great in the group stage. I'm like, okay, let's see. They already played MOUZ. They beat MOUZ. How is this gonna look? Maybe MOUZ choke, you know, on the stage. FURIA gets rolling, and it was so bad. It was so like. It felt like the only game plan they had was like run at MOUZ and hope they fall apart.
Fallen said something about that in the interview, didn't he?
And he actually did say this later. And I'm like, yeah, this is at least he is like acknowledging it.
Yeah.
But it felt very like single-minded. Like, how is this the only thing you have against these guys? And I understand the approach, and I think it's a good approach to start the game with. But like, if it after 6-7 rounds your A rushes are not working and you're not winning the rounds, and it's like 6-1, maybe stop and actually like do some normal shit that you've been doing throughout the tournament. Let your players play. But that didn't really pan out. So it was a pretty sad state of affairs overall.
I think it felt like they reverted to type, because like we always talk about home advantage as like home crowd advantage is a positive. But I think you can see with how FURIA played that it was just like it kind of the adrenaline just kind of got in their heads, and they kind of Case Heroic kept doing his door lurks that he always did with art and all the A rushes. Like that was like a classic art.
Yes,
bad
very
T-side
top site
of
focus.
Just so much top site stuff, and they like with all these international analysts coming in and stuff. Like I think they've been playing Nuke a lot, and you can see when they do go outside, they're actually pretty good at going outside now. Like it's kind of like the European style now. But yeah, in that semi-final, it felt like they lost their heads a bit, and they just reverted to the last like 4 years of their style, because under pressure, like that's just natural to do, right? So I think it's a learning process for them with a new system. But yeah, it looked like Fallen kind of let his hands off the wheel for that T side.
Can I ask? I want to ask a question. We're kind of backpedaling to the start of the conversation, which was Navi focused, but the MVP race was obviously pretty close.
Yeah.
Who was next in line after Emma? Because like I look at the stats and I look at the impact throughout games. It must have been really hard to pick an MVP.
I mean, throughout the whole final, yeah, it was pretty rough. Like we were heading into the final, we basically had 8 candidates. So that tells you a lot about the sort of conversation we had to have during it. Eventually, I mean, it turned out that obviously, considering most of MOUZ just kind of let out in the first couple of maps, and that's where 99% of the time you're going to lose the series there, right? I mean, best of 5 comebacks are virtually impossible. So from that aspect, it's kind of like at that point you realize there's probably not really anybody, like it's not going to be losing MVP, because nobody from MOUZ dominated, and so it's just kind of becomes more of a conversation of who within Navi was the best. And that obviously, ended up being kind of in a relatively close to JL, and there was also kind of Bit in that same.
Oh, Bit, okay.
Wonderful, I think was.
He had a good final. Wonderful.
Yeah, Wonderful. Definitely, kind
Especially
of.
ancient.
His semi against Heroic in the final. That's where he had all of his kind of contribution, and so he didn't really have the start that Bit or Ima did. So I think he just didn't really get up to that level by the end of it. But yeah, in the end, I mean, we were just looking at kind of Ima's numbers in the wins, both round wins, map wins, and there he was far enough ahead of that conversation that it made it not, I'm not going to say obvious, but relatively clear that he was at least the front runner from Navi. But still, I mean, the margins were very small between them. And even if you start looking at Jimmy, we also gave him an EVP. It was, I think, 3rd in line, right, Terry? After Zaiwu,
wasn't he? Like Zaiwu in the
3rd in line after JL and Zaiwu.
Oh yeah.
In the EVP conversation. And that was also because he kind of disappeared on the couple of maps and then disappeared on the half where like he was amazing in the first half of Inch and then just did nothing in the second, where if he does anything, they close the match, So it was rough. It was probably one of the harder MVP discussions we had to have this year, but we've had a lot of them, to be fair.
No, fair enough. I just was interested because like obviously we spoke about this DHL MVP thing on a couple of episodes ago, right? Like about the way because ESL will essentially have their own, which I suggested, and you guys kind of liked it, that it should be for the finals only, and maybe they'll change it. Maybe. But when we're having a look at it, and it's like we have to put in our votes, and I'm like, well, fuck, like this is tough. Like normally it's like, oh, there's really clear who I think should be the MVP. This one here, I was like, I don't know. Like I really don't know. It was really quite difficult to.
And it was one of those things that, I mean, you probably couldn't really make the same decision that we did just because we had to go kind of deep. And obviously, we now show kills in round wins, and that's kind of a stat that we actually do look at a lot. But you can't really filter out the bad losses that didn't end up mattering, and things like that necessarily don't paint a lot of the picture once we're talking about a team that won the event, unless they really put them in a position where they could have been eliminated or things like that. Like that's where we obviously punish players more for their bad performances. But those are the things that we look at a lot. And I mean, we had to look quite deep to make a a reasonable decision.
Sure.
I mean, the thing with Vima on that, just quickly, is that like his Furia game kind of tanked his rating as well, and it just didn't really end up mattering in the end. Like,
sure, because it's just a seeding
have to
game.
look at games like that. Like, it's a seeding game. He's then good in the quarterfinal, and then they're at the same stage anyway. But it is one of those things with these MVPs. Like, the raw rating at the end is just not really often what we actually look at all. Even the new rating, like, it's just you need to look at where they get it. And even like JL's case was kind of weird because of that semi-final where he was really good in the map they lost and then quite bad in the overtime win. And if those were flipped, then maybe he overtakes Ema for the MVP race, right? Because it's
like he's the one pushing them forward. He's the one pushing them forward. You know,
like if you're the player of the map in a game where you win, like it just has to be rated more importantly.
I guess that's why, like, with it's not eye test, but that's like what we talk about with the impact, right? And especially rounds that are worth more than one, like, you know, where you shatter a team's economy or something like that. And that's where you kind of need to comb through it a little bit more. But JL's in the chat right now. He's asking about like how the MVP for DHL stuff, JL, because it's like partially community vote and then the members of the broadcast get a say. That stuff isn't public, but I'll tell you that I voted for you as my number one. For HLTV, I don't think you guys just, it's like the two of you.
It's between the three of us,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you're in good hands with the HLTV one. Without one, you know, you could get
maybe he doesn't agree with that right now, you know. But then again, he has two MVPs from before, you know. So it's I don't think he's complaining right now.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, do we have any other teams we want to talk about from the event, or do we? Because we're already almost an hour deep, and there's lots of juicy shit I want to talk about.
Yeah, let's go. Let's keep going.
So this came out from, what was it, Dust2BR, saying that there's not going to be a Rio event next year. Yep. I kind of want to step back a little bit and ask the perspective of you gents who are watching from home, what your thoughts were on the event generally. I'm obviously trying to lead the conversation in a certain direction, but I don't want to take us there yet. So you guys can.
It's funny. Like, have you learned how not to ask leading questions, Chad?
I don't mind asking leading questions. I just want to hear what you guys thought of it, because I know what I thought and I know what I'm thinking. But I want to see what the thoughts were from home, because I was obviously there. It's a little bit different.
What we need is just Clash for Cash exhibition match. Fill an arena twice a year in Brazil, but with Brazilian teams, and then it's amazing. It's just like we've seen it 3 times now. It's one of those ones. Like, there's not many crowd events where when you're watching it at home you can feel the crowd. And Rio, when it's Furia, or when Furia are playing well, especially, it's one of those. Like, it's amazing. It would be a shame if we didn't have Brazilian lands, so because we couldn't get to see that. But it's just, when Furia aren't there, like, you might as well have it in Malta, like with a studio. Like, it's the same thing.
That's a reasonable take.
I mean, it is kind of sad to see like the grand final, and then they show the crowd, and you see like people in the front, and then you see all the seats in the back, just like red seats, empty, fully, like, because people got tickets but didn't show up because whatever, it's a sunny day outside or whatever. There's this discussion on Twitter between like Peacemaker, this guy from FaZe, and, you know, Peacemaker was making the argument that Rio is not a good place in Brazil to do events because it's so fun to do other things. And I'm like, this is kind of funny, but also it doesn't really matter in the end. Like, if people aren't showing up in the arena, it just feels like kind of meh. And I think the arena is also not the best in the world. Like, being there at the major,
and you can also not.
The bathrooms are not great. Let's just start with that. And the whole production doesnn look like, it looks worse than Dallas. Like, it just like visually looks worse. The cameras everything looks worse. So I don't know exactly why, but it is what it is. I think like Brazil is still, as Harry says, there's a lot of CS fans there, but I think the ups and downs of some games are like insanely, and some days are insanely packed, and the others are like, if the final doesn't have like 70% of the crowd full, then I don't know what we're doing. And it's not like we got 2 shit teams in the final either.
No,
that's the thing. Like, if you have like the best teams in the world coming to your country, you know, and they actually do end up meeting in the final, it's kind of like, it does feel bad if you're not bothering to show up, even though it's literally like number 1 against number 4, you know. And it's NAVI. Like, of course, like, I understand if it's like, let's say MOUZ, you know, who don't have a massive fan base all around the world, you know, and it's like MOUZ and Spirit or something, you know, let's say whose Spirits still have Dunk, but
Or
they're
Virtus
not
Pro.
they're not a G.
No, they like Virtus Pro actually.
They're not
Never mind. They like
sure.
Jame.
But they're not a G2, they're not a Vitality, they're not a FaZe Navi. You know, these 4 teams, like when they are in games, they will have fans everywhere. But somehow people in Brazil don't really give a shit too much, you know. So it's kind of, it feels
So
bad for sure.
biased.
And I do also think that it kind of, at least in terms of noise and all that, it was worse on the stream than I'm sure that what it was in person. Also because of kind of the cast in the arena being in Portuguese, and so like I'm sure the mics had to be tuned for that, you know, the crowd mics and all that stuff. So it just comes out even worse on the stream, because even during the FURIA game, I mean, I put it up because I just wanted to see the reception and hear the reception. But of course, like, it's never going to come through the crowd mics anyway. But it definitely felt muffled, or it felt a little bit muted compared to what I was expecting. While guys in the chat, you know, who were in our news chat, you know, who were on the spot, but literally saying they cannot hear shit, like when they enter the arena, you know. So it's like, it's partly a problem of that as well.
I went out in the crowd for the start of the FURIA MOUZ game, just to kind of get that vibe, because I remember what it was like when we were there at the major before, and mainly during the earlier stages. But you know, even the FURIA game that they had in the playoffs was insane. And obviously this time it's not 360, so there's less people in general. But that kind of, you get that injection of what's exciting about it. I like the way that Harry said it. Yeah, just do exhibition matches, get FURIA versus, you know, the biggest enemy you could possibly find, and let's go nuts. Like, let's do it for that purpose. Then it serves a goal. And selling those, and just do it one night. Just do it one night. Go into a Saturday night, if I can bang it out. Why not? Actually, that's pretty sick. Do an undercard thing. You know, get a second string Brazilian team out there. Let people just go absolutely nuts for it. I think that's the best use of going to that place, because otherwise, the tickets, from what I was told, were sold out.
For the final.
Okay. So what, the whole weekend? The whole weekend.
Too cheap? Is that the thing?
No. That's I was talking to someone from ESL about this. Now, these tickets aren't cheap, like, for the, like, considering, you know, the earnings locally and all this kind of stuff. And I'm sitting there trying to get to the bottom of it. It's like, so what, you must be a pretty affluent person to be able to buy these tickets and then not go. Because if I bought tickets and I didn't go, I would either get a refund or try and, like, give them to a maid or sell them, so someone would go, right? Like, if the tickets were worth it. But, like, I find it so difficult and obviously it is Brazilians who want events in their country, and that's fair enough. Like, I understand that feeling, but I'm from a place that every time there's an event on, it is fucking packed, and it's nuts as well. It's just a different type of nuts, but my people show up and we don't even have a team. Actually, no, shout out to FlyQuest. They won in Atlanta, gang. But maybe that's the story, you know, like, it was the same with Cologne and Germany, and like they had never had a team, you know, that did anything outside of that one Cologne final, you know, that they got big in, you know. But yeah, maybe that's the recipe for success, you know, having great events in countries where nobody gives a fuck about a whole team, because there is none. The thing is, as well, there's obviously like there's a very vocal group on like Reddit and HLTV when the Brazil event is on, to point out, you know, oh, there's nobody here. Like, you could have done the same thing with the fucking Copenhagen event that was at Blast just the week before, right? Like, there was people there, but it wasn't great. And I this is not like I get it. People are like, oh yeah, it's like football. We cheer for our team and we boo the enemy. Okay, great, that's fine. But then I agree with Harry even more so. Let's just do exhibition style matches there. Like, if we know what we're dealing with, let's stop being silly, right? Let's stop pretending. And I'm not an official confirmation, but from what I understand, there's definitely no Rio next year. There's no Brazil next year, as far as ESL events are concerned. I mean, I heard as much as well. So look, for those type of places, maybe we try going once every couple of years as opposed to every year, and see if that changes the turnout. Because we've gone 3 times in the span of 3 years, and from 2022 to 2023, we went within 6 months. It's fucking dumb. Yeah, like, that was. Especially when you're going from like major to normal event. If it was normal event to major, then maybe you could pull it. But I do want to say this. Shout out to this Finnish bloke that I met in the audience. He's a Finnish guy dating a Brazilian woman living in Western Australia, who was there in Brazil to watch the games for some reason. Shout out to that guy. And I asked him, I was like, this was before the final. I was like, who do you want to win, Jimmy or Alexi? Is like, well, you know, I think this would be really good for Jimmy at this point in his career. And if he plays really well here, it might be really good for him. And like in the top 20. And oh shit, have I timed out? Nope, am I here? You're good. Shit. Oh, everything lagged. But yeah, I met that guy and I was like, this guy, he's from Western Australia. He's like, oh, he works in the mines, and it was great. Anyway, shout out to that Finnish bloke. Anyway, we're
And
going to
he's
go to
both from Australia who went to Rio to watch CS.
yeah. Well, his missus is Brazilian, so it kind of all
Okay,
made sense.
okay,
in a way.
that
But
just rounds it
I
out.
think she lives there as well. It was kind of
Alright.
crazy. I didn't expect that to happen. Okay, so the other bit of news that's adjacent to this is that who was it? Some person from Rio, some important person.
Yeah, some government
Politician,
people. Yeah.
Yeah, so some important person from Rio saying that they want to have a major there by 2027 or what? Man,
Say something about politicians. Say something.
No,
Say
politicians
a general
can't.
politician statement.
I
Chad.
don't. I think it would be a very bad move for any TO to do that after what we've seen. Like, how can you justify it?
What would
Well-
be sorry, but what would be interesting is how will the Buenos Aires event do next year? Because South America is such a big place, like, and it's just Rio every time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that'd be curious. I mean, those guys also. I mean, it's not like a massive CS country, but it's popular there, at least as far as we can tell.
I'm lagging. I don't know what either of you said, but I hope it was good.
Okay.
I hope. I think Buenos Aires is going to be pretty lit in terms of the crowd. Just in general, knowing the Argentinian vibe. But yeah, I don't know about the major. The major is just a little. It's a little.
I think it's
tidbit.
more like, government people who just want the event to be there, but maybe nobody's actually going to bring it there, and it's not going to be the next 2 years. It seems like that it would return to Rio at least.
I think I got the gist of it. Prof
Okay.
said something about Buenos Aires and Argentina. I'm trying to read lips.
You're
Look,
very lagged.
I'm lagging real bad. I imagine I have a shitload of packet loss right now. So look, this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna have a quick shout out to my boy Coco in chat, who's been all over the forums tagging me in every thread. What I need is Lucas to throw us to an ad break, and during that ad break, Prof and Striker to go and take a look at Coco's IP and look at my IP to prove to the people you don't need to show our IPs, but just to say that we are different people. Because we're not the same person. So, Lucas, let's go to a break. We'll come back and we'll get into more of the news.
The world is changing quickly. Shut up.
The world is changing, but one thing remains the same. Victories with 1xbet.
SkinPlace launching an event with a total prize pool of $10,000 in honor of our first anniversary. Just sell skins, claim daily bonuses, complete missions, visit the shop, and participate in the main giveaway with popular skins and a powerful PC. Follow our social media to not miss.
Since the dawn of CSGO, we have been there. Observers of all that competition can reveal. Elation, fear, triumph, and heartache reach out from every frame. From the small studios and conference rooms to the epic arenas, the feeling is still the same. We live and breathe this game. This was CSGO Through the Lens. Buy now at hltv.org/shop.
That was a perfect timeout. Literally countdown to Chad timing out, but it's good. So I did a little check. Obviously, Chad was referring to Kokoschka on the HLTV forums. HLTV forums kind of popping off recently. Saw Chad. Harry is posting there. I'm posting there. But this user is being accused of being Chad's alt, and I cannot check his IP, but I can IP ban one of them and see if it bans the other. That's the only solution I have here. So if people agree with this, they should write one in chat. So I'll ban Kokoschka for 1 day to see. Other than that, what's next on the topic list? I was just absolutely chilling having Chad actually do his job. The
I'm
next
here,
thing is
but
Skinionaire. The next thing is Skinionaire. We can do the Skinionaire
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yep.
we can hear you.
My loss is going down.
Let's go.
Oh wait, hold up. Now, is it going? It's going back up. How do I disconnect my Wi-Fi without turning my internet off?
It's gonna be somewhere in the.
Can I do that?
Bin. Yeah, of course.
I think it's gonna reset the. Is it gonna reset the router? I don't know. If you go
I mean,
to
even
your
if it
router,
does, it's gonna be back in like half.
Yeah.
Fuck it. It's we're here at the moment. We're all good. It's fine.
I can
not
do
lagging
the
right now.
I can do the Skinionaire while you wait out your situation. The Skinionaire is for Harry. We have some questions about Brazil to wrap it up, and then we'll move on to the rating discussion. We have some questions there as well. A lot of
It's fine. The loss is gone. I think it's gone for now. It's at 0.01%. All right. So did you prove that I'm not Coco for everybody?
No, I said the only way I can do this is by IP banning one of you to see if the other one gets banned as well. But I don't have your IP. It's not something I have visible as an admin. It would probably break some laws or whatever.
I just want to say, like, with the amount of typing that he's done during this episode, if I was typing that much, right, while fucking, it's insane. Like, I couldn't have done that.
It's an easy, but I don't understand even where this came from. It's just like this
It was
guy.
a Finnish user who accused, who made the accusation, and then it's kind of just picked up since there. Because the guy now, Coco, he's not doing himself any favors because he keeps making threads and then like making it about me or doing something. So he's causing the speculation. It's kind of his fault in a way, I would say.
He's enjoying it. He's enjoying the limelight.
Yeah,
But you've been on
exactly.
the forums quite a bit recently. What's inspired this?
People have been nicer, but then I also realized you can block people.
Oh, that's one of the newer features. I feel like the forums are an explosion is coming. I feel like in the next 6 months, everyone's going to be on the forums. Like I can see like JL like in the thread, in the news post about JL MVP, just like making fun of everyone. It's like replying to everyone. I can see this happening.
Okay, well, I'd like to see
I like the
progressions.
subtle hint. If he's still in the chat, that would be funny.
You want him to use the forums and okay. Look,
People have
Skinionaire.
been respectful actually with the tagging thing because obviously people know our handles everywhere because we show up in all the news, so they don't really have to. Not for you, I guess. I'm guessing not for you.
Look at my mentions, bro.
I don't know, man. You have to tell me.
Mine are out of control.
Maybe I just don't matter, man. Because
Dude,
like people are just tagging me like once every 10 hours, one couple of times a day, maybe or so.
Since
That's pretty
ratings
good.
definitely got worse. It's just like the same question once an hour for the last 2 days. But
Well, we'll get into that. Don't you worry, mate. We got plenty of questions here. All right, let's get into Skinionaire. This one is brought to everybody at home by Skinplace. Type Skinplace in chat right now. That'll be your little raffle ticket. We're gonna have 5 questions for Harry. Multiple choice. This time it's not 3 options. I don't know how many options it could be. It could be at more than 1. I'll say that much. Every question that Harry gets right, slider moves up. These, Prof, you said. Actually, who did the questions? Prof or Striker?
Dimitri. And
fucking lagging again.
The 5th question will rock your boats.
All right, Prof, you got to do this. I'm going to go restart my internet. Bear back.
Okay, this is good. Question number 1, whenever you're ready, Lucas. Has a Brazilian team ever won an event by Blast, ESL, or DreamHack on home soil? Yes or no?
who won like DreamHack Open Rio?
I was thinking about the same, but I'm like,
because I'm like, Sao Paulo wasn't a Brazilian team. The Rios and Belo Horizontes weren't. Unless I'm
that was
being really
FaZe.
stupid.
DreamHack
like
Rio.
So it's just
was
like, is there a
won-
DreamHack Rio or something? I don't think
There
so.
was a DreamHack Rio
Potentially.
and was won by a player that was in Rio this week. You're in the playoffs of Rio.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's a no, to be honest. But
You're gonna lock it
I
in?
don't know. I mean, the last few times I've come on, I got all 5, and it was like got them right quickly. But this is hard. This is harder. I think no. I clicked no.
Okay, locked in no, and the answer is no. DreamHack Rio, 100K won by Virtus Pro.
oh,
Jame.
okay. Oh, of course, yeah.
Okay, question number 2. The last international LAN event in Brazil with a 100K plus prize took place in April 23, April 24, or June 2024.
June. Because I'm trying to remember, because 2024 What kind of question is this? Hang on. I'm trying to. CVS was June. CVS was June, and it was. I think it's more than 100k. Pretty sure. Like the one pain one with a stand-in. This is where you help Striker. I'm pretty sure it's a guess. Because the trick is that it's the last Rio obviously was not.
It was April 23, but yeah.
I think CVS was more than 100k. Like these new tournaments, they just splash it out. I think it's more than 100k.
Yeah, I
Lock
mean,
it in.
go for it.
You're gonna tell me that event was in April. I'm gonna be very annoyed.
I have no idea.
We're locking it in.
And the answer is?
No,
It was in April.
It was in April.
It was actually Get Rio. GET Rio.
Yes, that was not CVS. That's the one I was thinking about. But yeah, it was in April.
A rough question. We're saving the skins for another time. Okay, question number 3. Which event never existed? DreamHack Open Rio, ESL 1 Belo Horizonte, or Blast Pro Series Rio?
Blast.
Easy.
Get some honor back.
Okay.
Horizonte.
That was a quick one. Going to number 4 actually. The first international CSGO event with a prize pool of over 100k to take place in Brazil was EPL Season 4 Finals, ECS Season 4 Finals, or ESL 1 Belo Horizonte.
It's EPL, it's Stewie. I remember watching this at like 3 a.m. in like 2016. I know this one.
Yeah. ECS never went to Brazil, I think, right?
Actually, banging event. One of my core memories, my core CS memories. That one. So if
Quick
this is wrong, I will be upset.
Quick lock in, and the correct answer is EPL. Okay, and the last one. Last question. Can we get 4? Can we get 4?
Then you say this was
For the first time in history, Rio was announced to host a CSGO major number 16, 17, or 18.
I think Copenhagen was 19.
Rio was announced to host the CSGO major.
So if Copenhagen was 19, Paris was 18. So it's 17.
It's not, because there were 2 before.
Stockholm and Antwerp.
There was the cancelled one. So this refers to the 2021. It's got to be the first one then, right?
Yeah, so it's 16 then. Definitely 16 then. But yeah, we'll take the hint.
And the correct answer is?
This is the phrasing of that question is just like red flag instantly.
See what he's trying to do.
That's good. The second question was also, it was kind of rough. It's kind of rough to know the months, but overall pretty good performance, 4 out of 5. And the winner is, oh, I did not tell people to spam skin place, but they know how to do that anyway. So good job. My name Yeet420 has won the giveaway, so we will be in touch. We had a big hold up with skins. We had some stuff that we needed to sort out, so the skins should be coming shortly.
Am I being DDoSed?
I don't know.
Is Kokoschka DDoSing you because you have the same IP?
My loss is back again. Like, I just rebooted. Like, I'm not a tech guy. Like, I can't even work out what would cause it. I don't even have anything fucking open.
I had it, and it was like our cable was going under a door, and that was giving us like 40% loss on Counter-Strike. So that was great.
That sounds miserable. All right, well, what we'll do is we'll battle forward. And if it fucks up really bad again and I can't hear you guys, then I don't know. I'm just going to go throw my computer out the window or some shit. Yeah, cool. Skinionaire brought to you by Skinplace. Great job, Prof. You nailed it. Great job, Harry. Everybody who contributed. Striker, I'm sure you did something as well. Lucas for pressing the buttons. Everybody did well. Okay, so this next one, I feel I need to be here for. So hopefully the internet holds on while we jump into the next one. Harry, we brought you here today. We've kind of like wheeled you out and we put you in front of like a firing line, right? And now we're going to pull the trigger. Now, the reason that is probably good that I'm here to ask some questions is because I'm a moron. As everybody is well aware, I'm a big idiot. Numbers are not my thing. Stats are cool and all, but I don't even really know, how we get to these end results that we have. Now, just a quick one for everybody. You guys have rolled out 2.1. And at the bottom of that article, you guys were saying that you're working on a 3.0, but there's still a lot of work to be done on that. So that's going to come later. So My first question, and I am going to position myself, I've already positioned myself as the moron, but I'm also going to position myself as an ultra moron. Ready? What was the reason that you felt the need to roll out a 2.1?
Well, I think the main thing is CS2, probably. I think everyone's noticed it. Like MR12 just affects a lot of things, but the actual, when you dig into it more, CS2, like changing the assists changes a ridiculous amount of rating because it's factored in 3 different sub ratings. Like KST, like the old average for KST was like stupidly low, basically, and that's like one part of rating, and then it's also in other parts of rating. But the other main thing, apart from the assists, was just the game has changed so much since 2017. Like, I think when you look at it, like JW, right? He saved maybe 4% of round losses. Okay. And AWPers now are like 15. Even riflers now, even Donk is like 9% of rounds. So when you have that, you basically, there's just fewer kills to go around in a game. So everyone is being compared against these 2016 values of kills, damage, and deaths, where actually everyone is getting fewer kills now than in 2016. Like a good game has fewer kills in it because everyone's saving. Especially maps like Inferno, people are going like 8 deaths, 10 kills, and they actually lose the game 13-10. And you're like, okay, this is like, that's an extreme example. But across every map, the averages were going down. So what we needed to do was change all the averages to reflect CS2. And after a year of CS2, that was just seemed like the right time to do it, basically. So now everything is compared to CS2 averages with saving in mind, and saving gets punished. That's basically the main reason that we needed to do this.
Yeah, I mean, just to add on to it, I think some people digged out, first of all, my tweet from when CS2 came out, and people are talking about the ranking in MR12. And one thing that I was misinformed about was that the assist, that we calculated assist based on damage, but it was actually taking the value directly from CS. Essentially, if CS thought it was an assist, then it would be an assist for us.
Yeah.
But initially we thought that it's not how it works, that it's like based on the actual damage, and we
because flash assists work differently for us because they were kind of
Yes.
unreliable in CSGO, so we had our own thing determining what a flash assist is, and that's still the case even now, but I think it's still more prevalent in CS2 anyway.
Yeah, I mean, so we lost Chad, but it's fine. I'll just explain because, like, yeah, Harry, you said like CS2 is the reason. It's the reason why we kind of started looking into it. But then when you looked into it and saw like how the averages or the average values changed drastically, realistically, even if CS2 didn't come out, it would probably be the update was needed regardless. Like it just like 2023 CSGO, the rating was slightly off, right? Just based on how the game changed. So then all of these things combined together, the fact that it's MR12 is the smallest reason to change this, in my opinion. I don't think MR12 affected things that much overall.
Yes,
yeah, I mean, exactly. MR12, it's more about the adaptation to the meta. I mean, I just answered a question on the forums because somebody exactly said the same thing, you know, that at the beginning we said like MR12 doesn't really affect anything and all that stuff. And that was more to do with the fact that as if rating wasn't made for MR12, it is tailored, like it's calculated per round, you know, so whatever sample size you... No, I mean, I'm talking about... No, I'm not talking about the average. I'm talking about like if you calculate the rating and it's called and you add it to a sample, it doesn't matter how many rounds it is in the sample, it's going to get recalculated based on per round numbers, you know. So in that sense, you can't really say that it's not tailor-made for any MR whatever, you know. It's going to work in every one. It's more about how the meta is going to be, how the meta adapts to the fact that there are fewer rounds, how many gun rounds there are in the game and all that stuff. You know, some of these things will change quite a lot, and that's also going to affect how much saving there happens, because, you know, you will get fewer gun rounds in a game of CS2 rather than CSGO because it's MR12, but it's not a direct result of the MR12 that we needed to do this. You know, it's more like an indirect result of how the meta changed and how teams adapted to there being fewer rounds effectively.
Yeah, like I don't know if Lucas can maybe even pull this up, but like looking back at like the way to look at it was the top 20 graphics of like previous years, basically. So, I mean, maybe he can't, but anyway, the point is the survival rating and KST rating. So you can see the bars here, right? And all the bars are the parts of sub rating, basically. So your rating is the average. So they're all behind the scenes. They're all like rating. So they're all with an average of 1.00. But if you check all the top 20 graphics from CSGO even, the survival bar is bigger for everyone. Like an average survival rate for 2022 was giving you lots of survival rating because the average survival rating went up to like 1.12 or something, right? So then when you take the average of all 5, it just meant that surviving was having a disproportionate impact on rating itself. Like it went from being 20% of rating to being, I don't know, 23% or something. And over a year, that adds up. It's the same with KST with saving. And obviously the inverse, if people are surviving more, that necessarily means people are killing less, people are damaging less. And you just end up with like that dual effect of rating tilting towards surviving a little bit too much. So that was the main reason we came in to change it. And then just CS2 meant it was a good time to roll back to. So this is only rolled back to CS2, not 2.0 for old CSGO majors. Like I've seen people try and check like James Rio major rating. Like that's not how it works because it's all fine-tuned based on CS2 data, basically.
Yeah, and I mean the assist part of it, which is also pretty significant. I mean that's also only CS2 because I mean it is easier to get, or it is assisted kills are harder now, which means they're valued a little bit better because the bottom amount of damage for, or the lowest amount of damage for an assist is lower by whatever it is, 15 compared to CSGO. So that's why assisted kills are valued higher than they were before in the kill rating, for example. So that part that wouldn't have existed in like that part wouldn't have gotten adjusted in CSGO anyway.
And I think maybe something we could look at is like the players that changed most or the roles that changed most. So basically across the board, everyone's down like 0.03, 0.04. So we do just have to be a bit careful in the next few months. Like a 1.2 rating is better now than it was a week ago. So when you look at players, like everyone loved to bring up that NAVI had 4 players above 1.20. Well, now they're all below. So it's one of those things. It's just getting used to it. AWPers are obviously punished more. But in terms of players, like I did pull it up earlier. It's like the 5 players, like 6 or 7 players who changed most. Like there's no surprises here. Like everyone who knows the game just had to manually filter when you see a scoreboard with like these players in to just like nerf it a little bit. And now at 2.1 you don't have to. So like James been hit the hardest, then Flit, Cadian, Blamev, Sampaius, Exit, Brennan, Nikados, Keserato, Crimbo, Fame. So it's basically like VP riflers, like, and then the anchor lurkers who actually play for stats quite a lot. It's these guys who are just saving disproportionately for their roles, and they're going down more, but on average everyone is going down. Like everyone's going down. So
also AWPers, right? Like passive AWPers generally as well.
Yeah, but when we talk about like the top 3 players, because we're valuing kill rating and damage rating more, just because they're all equal importance again now. Like the m0NESY and Zoe haven't changed at all, like in terms of rank, even though they save like maybe 10% ish. Like they haven't changed because they're killing so many people. So when you look at AWPers overall, it's like I checked it earlier.
Hero is probably the biggest drop, right? Or one, like he's going to be one of those.
Well, yeah. It's got like a min map count on the list I just mentioned. So yeah, he's got to be. But so AWPers were minus 0.04 on average, and riflers were minus 0.03. So it's not like a huge difference. The huge difference is in the AWPers that will go like 11 and 8 in a win, where they're just very low output AWPers. They're the ones who have actually been punished. It's not AWPers generally. Like if you're using your AWP to get 20 kills a game, you're still absolutely fine.
What about the other end of the spectrum?
The people who've improved, well,
or at least stay the same, you know?
Yeah, well, improved in terms of rank, like relative to other people. A lot of them are actually like IGLs. It's riflers who are more supportive, who get quite a lot of assists, but don't necessarily, like save a lot because they're going in first or because they're anchoring on CT or something. In the type of roles where you're the one jumping around for a retake. So it's like Shui, Chopper, Mzinho, Kixan, JT, Tabson, Mezzi, Brolan doesn't save at all, which is crazy. He's like 5%.
These have gone up or down? Sorry.
So these are the players who have improved in their rank, and they've not improved a lot. So these are all players who are kind of low anyway. But
well, let's say in comparison, maybe some other players went down
Yeah.
while they stayed on kind of the same numbers, let's say.
yeah, so they're kind of chilling. They're the same. Like even like Tess's, Yabi, to use like players who are more fragging. Ema is up there. Flames is up there. JL's up there. Like players who don't save, players who get a lot of entry halvings, because that means you're more likely to die. It also means that, you know, like you're getting a lot of assists, because if you get a lot of assists, then it benefits the rating in multiple places. And that's one of the things for 3.0 is I think we are going to try and get assists back to 40 damage or 41 damage, because that is when you kind of balance this out a bit more. Like that's one of the things that we couldn't do for 2.1 is get the assists back to 41. And we do want to do that because, you know, some of these riflers are hitting a guy once with an AK and then getting quite a lot of credit.
Yeah, because they're getting like a traded death, but also an assist, right? Which counts like damage, but also counts as KSD. And yeah, okay, so it like adds up in multiple ways. I mean, I think that's a good thing that you mentioned in terms of like not being able to get some stuff, because people are also asking about the economy. Litify has economy and we don't have economy. So can you explain to people what the difference is and in our approach essentially?
I don't know how much I can say on the actual approach, but the thing with people like Litify, Skybox, these people with better economy data, like ours is, we do have economy data, like it's in beta and has been for a while, but it's not really how rating is calculated. So Litify, for example, you have to download to the demo, you have to upload the demo, and then they pass the demo. And that takes a lot of processing power, from what I understand. Like Striker, feel free to correct me if I'm waffling at any point. No, because I'm not 100% on the back end. But because there's so many games on HLTV and the stats are instant, right? Like the game finishes and you're spamming F5 and then it's like your agenda's ready to go. Like someone like Litify, it's like a 5-minute wait, 10-minute wait. Like when there's a 5-minute wait on a HLTV game, there's like 3 forum threads. Like, where are stats? Why have they forgotten stats? And there's like thousands of games every month.
I mean, there's also a problem realistically that some games never get demos. Like we do have demo hosted on.
They get corrupted, yeah.
But demos get corrupted. People like the TO doesn't upload it. So if you're relying on demos to like create the rating, you can just miss games realistically. So it's a thing that's, and like obviously our stuff gets live. The logs just are live, right? As you see the live score and everything through the score bot.
Yeah.
So that's,
I mean, you can also.
So I just want to say, like, the stuff that goes through the log and stuff that you can find in the demo are not the same. There's not the same depth of information, right? So that's kind of what needs to be solved to get some more insight sometimes.
Yeah,
like
I think
even
flash assists are different and stuff. Like you can't put flash assists in the log yet because of how we calculate them. So it's just things like that. Is the 3.0 will be basically adjusting the log file quite a lot, and we obviously need help from multiple parties to do that.
And it's also because of some of these things are difficult to quantify, right? I mean, everybody says like eco hunting is bad and all that stuff, but not all eco hunting is bad, first of all. And there are rounds where it's like against, you know, with some of these half buys that are like second rounds, and we know how much those can have an impact on a round, you know? And so it's not as easy as just like putting a fraction on all the eco kills or all the half buy kills and all that stuff and just be done with it and realize that's our 3.0, you know? That's why like the next stage of stats is in kind of win probabilities and how that is affected by certain actions in the game, and that can be anywhere from, you know, what we already have through economy, through, you know, sometimes even position. And obviously, you know, this is something that's more next level than we would probably look for in like the next rating or anything like that. But a lot of this data is stuff that is not easy to parse out or not easy to quantify the impact of, you know, like how do you quantify a guy who just enters B site on Inferno alone, gets that kill, you know, gets one crucial kill and that basically deciding the entire round, you know, the other team just decides to save. Like, how do you get that information and how do you get it across in a number? Like, how do you really put that? What number do you put on that player who does something like that that's not really quantifiable through, even if it's not through a kill, it's just a position, you know, he just gains a position somewhere because he understands this site is now empty. I put down a smoke, nobody can now enter, you know? It's like this stuff is very difficult. And so the next level of evaluating performances is in like a lot of machine learning and stuff like that. And that's not something that can just happen overnight.
I mean, the good news for the CS is like think of traditional sports and all the advanced stats they have. Like, tracking those things is next to impossible. Like, you have to actually have, so like a company like Opta in football, like people might know like Opta from Twitter and stuff. They have people in a country sat in a computer watching a game on double speed, and every time there's like a progressive pass, they press a button. Like, that's the level that they have to do to get these advanced stats and make sure they're actually perfect. For CS, like, there's everything is in the file, even compared to other video games. Like, it's ridiculous how much information. Yeah, well, obviously, that's tougher, but like everything is in these demo files. Like, you can access literally everything. Like, you have everyone's coordinates every single second. So in something like Valorant, you can't do that. So that's why I think it's really ready for advanced stats to come in. And it's just like something like you're talking about, like an entry on a bomb site where it's one player on the bomb site. Like, that obviously should be more important, but that's going to be super hard for us to do. That's probably more something where a lot of the innovation in these things actually come from teams. For that type of level of it benefits your recruitment so much more to have things like this, right? Like, there's a reliance on HLTV in CS when realistically everyone can just download a demo and pass it and change the formula themselves, right? What we're doing isn't that. What we're doing is making a rating that's easy to understand, quick to pass, and also like has room for improvement later. Like, that's what 2.1 is. It's good for the amount of time that we spent on it, basically. We obviously are very aware that economy matters. Like, even EMA's not major MVP, like Rio MVP, like, we are aware of all the buy around things that came up. We have Skybox. We know that he was eco-fragging a lot, but it's also when you're watching the game, he's eco-fragging a lot. But these anti-forces, like when you're watching the game, he is getting a lot of impactful kills as well. So like Striker was saying, yes, like economy is going to be a huge part of it, but you can't introduce economy without a lot of other context, because something like just a full buy versus eco filter misses out all these dangerous like hero eco rounds as well. So it needs to be more complicated. It needs to be based on, if I kill this player, does my probability of winning the round increase? And
yeah,
if it's a Glock, fine.
What you're trying to say, even like average team economy is like 3,000, but you get the kill on the guy that has like 6,000. Like, he has
saved
or something. Yeah, it's not like that kill is not valuable. That kill is as valuable as the kill like in a normal round, but it's just in a round that looks easier on paper. So like, you're averaging out things that, especially because like there's not that many rounds in a CS game. So if you would average the shit out, you might lose more than you gain in certain points. Am I like?
Yeah.
No, I think it's just a preview.
Okay.
But
yeah, I mean, I know when we were talking about this and like doing like a small update, you're very skeptical about like, people just be mad because we didn't do like a big economy shift. But obviously this is it's a nice thing to have, considering like CS2 is kind of a new step. So just starting with a new rating, even though it's slightly updated, and it's also going to help people understand, I think, some of the like top 20 and MVP and stuff like this, especially top 20. I think obviously most of the stuff that is in rating 2.1 now, you have already been using to determine stuff like some of the, time alive, saved,
I mean, especially saves and losses and stuff like that. That's something that we can take into consideration.
Like so that's going to help people understand like why some of these things are like higher or lower than they would have been if we just kept rating 2.0. So I think it's completely a worthy update, but doesn't mean like, we're not gonna make further updates.
Yeah, I mean, people were asking if this was going to affect any of the decisions that we made so far. We haven't gone through everything like back and see if like some decisions would have been different or wouldn't have been different. But in general, we have, as you say, we have already taken into consideration saving, which is the biggest thing that got hit. And with this update, when we were determining awards and obviously, some of the typical players that got hit the most. I mean, those we were obviously aware of, at that point already, and for a long time. That I mean, that's also why Jame, only ended up number 20 the year that he made it, instead of quite a bit higher. What his rating would have suggested, was a lot down to saving. Blame if was the same thing at the time. We took these things into account when we were deciding the top 20. We are taking these things into account when we're deciding individual awards per event. And obviously we have our own eye test to consult in that as well. It's not like we're watching every single game like all of us, but obviously we watch enough between ourselves to know, if a certain game something was overrated, underrated. A lot of that stuff we're taking into consideration. So it's just in a short answer, we're not expecting any changes in terms of awards, or at the end of the year that we're going to think, okay, this guy got an MVP when he wasn't supposed to, or anything like that. I think that stuff holds up because we didn't just look at the rating number and decide how that how like the order of players or their importance.
I mean, also Donk's MVP from Katowice, the rating remained the same.
Literally
like
holds up, yeah.
So that's kind of crazy that didn't change at all. So just shows that was an insane tournament.
I mean, when you get into like the 1.00 kills per round, like that's just kind of like you cannot really get any better than that.
Hello.
Hello.
I won't have a webcam.
Okay.
But I'm here. And I'm not lagging. I haven't been lagging in a while. I asked Lucas, but he didn't build the new thing for that, so it might work or it might not work. So I don't know what's going to happen.
That's fine.
But I apologize. I don't know what was causing the packet loss. I turned everything else off. That didn't help. It's just kind of subsided. It's just kind of gone away on its own type of thing. So I listened to most of that conversation about the statistics. I missed.
Do you have any questions, John?
Well, not really. No. Like I heard the stuff about you guys hoping in the future to change the assist thing. I can't believe Valve Valve just wanted people to feel like they were contributing.
To feel better about their performance.
But to get 26 damage and be considered an assist, that's dumb as fuck, man. Like you shoot someone in the foot, it's like cool. But
it gets even crazier in games like League of Legends, for example. Like you give somebody a shield and they kill a player and they get an assist, and things like that. So this is not as egregious as that, at least.
Inclusionary. I think the biggest takeaway that I got from that is this is always going to be a work in progress, because what you were saying, Harry, like the game's evolved a lot since when 2.0 was released, and the game's probably going to evolve a lot consistently, right? Like that's going to be the case. Like the game and the way it's played and things that we're looking for are going to change over time. So I think that this is a step in the right direction. And then when you guys are able to include all the things that you want to, then people might get a better picture. I think the problem, and it's not one that is at any fault of your own, and I'm using that like label of HLTV, is that it is considered like the gold standard, right? So when things are seen a little bit or as imperfect, and I heard what you were saying about Leadify and how it takes longer for them to populate the statistics and stuff because of when they're uploading the demo, this, that, and the other, and more advanced stats. But that's probably why there's so much like of a kickoff around certain things, or why aren't they looking at this? It's like, well, in life, things take time, especially in something that's evolving, and that's just the way it is. But kids, they don't really have the patience. Everybody wants things now. That's kind of the Zoomer brains of the world and the Gen Alphas. But what can you say about that? Nothing really.
I mean, I think the thing to stress with rating in general, especially HLTV rating, because it's such a wide range of games, is the whole advantage of stats like this is no human being can watch every single game in existence, like ever, right? And okay, your eye test will always be better than any stat. No one number is ever going to accurately reflect a game as well as like a good analyst watching the game. Like that's not realistic.
And also, I mean, you kind of
rating
to evaluate it properly, you kind of have to watch it like 5 times back and from multiple perspectives and all that stuff, to get everything into account, which is, even more impossible.
Yeah, because rating is watching hundreds of games a day and giving you a result in seconds, right? And that is the value. You will obviously still need an eye test to verify things afterwards. It is the value of all stats in terms of anything is doing the work that a human can't. And rating 2.1 just does that job better than 2.0.
There's just things like the as you're mentioning there, watching the game, even when we're following the observer feed, and I also dislike this with how inadequate the big radar is while watching, because that's where I do most of my casting off of. You're never going to get all the information of like, did this guy miss a piece of utility? Did he go to throw it and then it got sticky nade? Like, how does that contribute to the guy going for the peak and then dying? Like, there's so many factors that play into it that it's really hard to quantify and to cover it at all times, especially live and in the moment. So Counter-Strike's a very complex game. Who would have fucking thought? Who would have thought?
I would have thunk it.
All right. Well, I hope the people at home are somewhat satiated.
There's a question on the forums, just to maybe ask that one. I think Chad, you replied in this thread.
Oh yeah. Chorus.
Chororo. He said, "His 2-1 rating rewards baiters and eco hunters because it now gives more value to perfect kills, which are defined as kills which you get without receiving any damage yourself. When is that more likely to happen? That's right, when you're baiting or when your opponent have a weaker buy. Oppers are disproportionately favored as well. Who has ever asked for anything of the sort? Literally nobody. The community has been asking the eco hunters and baiters be rewarded less, but instead the new rating objectively rewards them even more. Well done, HLTV." Okay, that's kind of that's his.
The perfect kills have been in the rating the whole time, right? I mean,
so nothing's changed in that effectively.
It's been in there since 2.0, and also you just gotta, like, everyone knows when they see an AWP's ADR that it's going to be lower, right? So, and that's not their fault. That's just the nature of the gun, is that it's going to be harder. Like, I think it's fine to have in kill rating a little bit of a boost for AWPers. Like, I think this 2.1 rating actually probably hurts AWPers a lot more, but just because of the nature of the role is that you survive quite a lot.
Yeah.
But it's not.
And also lack of assists.
It's not rewarding
that's
AWPers at all. I think you look at like a Leatify rating by role, and AWPers and passive players are way better, because when you look at it just purely on round win probability, playing safe and getting like a percentage player that's slightly better, like just accumulating decent plays, eventually gets you in a better place on a rating system like that than someone who's aggressive, who's very up and down, and it fluctuates a lot. So rating 2.1 actually, compared to the alternatives, is very harsh on passive players and passive AWPers, to be honest, even with the saving now.
Yeah, but you also have to consider, I mean, obviously it doesn't say whether that's harder or it's not harder, but you can't really argue with the fact that if you get a kill with an op and you don't really get any damage back or anything like that, it's a kill for free that doesn't cost you anything. That's obviously more valuable to a team or to a round than if you get a guy who's trading with another one. He ends up with 5 HP at the end and has to go back, and just has to kind of hide or whatever, or is just not used as effectively as an opera would on 100 HP. It's just so, like, of course an op is the best weapon in the game for a reason. And I mean, that's the whole discussion of, it's not like oppers are overrated. It's more like, no, the best players are oppers usually. It's the other way than how people usually think about it, that like all the oppers are going to be the best because they are inflated by the ranking. No, I mean, all the oppers are the best because they know how best to use the best weapon in the game, and that's just why they're so good, effectively. So that's why every team, or almost virtually every team, has a star opera on there. It's not that those guys, like, if they weren't star operas, they would still have amazing ratings. That would just not happen. I mean, we see that happen with certain, like when we had Alping IGLs, people like MSL, if I go all the way back, it's not like he had a massive impact in terms of Alping, and just because he had that gun, he was okay with it, but he was, averaging 100 ratings with it anyway. So it's like, it's just one of those things, that people are thinking kind of backwards about.
Oh, sorry, I was sneezing. Today's not really going well for me. Runny eyes, packet loss, sneezing, fucking no webcam's not working. It's all falling apart. People talking about stats I don't really understand. Oh man,
I just saw your tweets. One. Yeah, we released the matchups for RMRs and the groups. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, we can get into that.
Sure, yeah.
like we have other stuff. Maybe we just quickly fly through some of the other news because I'll be honest, it's not that interesting, but we should touch on it. Obviously, the Bleed situation, they're now going as unpaid. Bleed as an organization.
Can we show that picture, Lucas? I don't know if you know
it's
which
on
one I'm talking
Reddit.
about.
I can link it.
Don't link the Reddit one.
Oh, did they just copy it? I hate it when they do that, bro. And the fact that Reddit lets that stay up, it's like they post whole articles and shit.
You can also literally download the whole video off of YouTube and upload it to Reddit, and it just stays there.
And that's fine, apparently.
It is what it is.
I feel it of a lesser extent, like content that we work on with ESL, they just like post the video like without like the YouTube link or whatever.
Oh yeah.
So then the reason that sucks, obviously I get paid from ESL regardless, but when I want to take content that's being done to ESL with viewership figures and be like, hey, look at how many viewers this got. Can't do that because it's just some fucking Reddit thread that gets lost in the ether. Thanks guys. You're making my life really easy. Okay.
The lads.
Yeah. So sorry, I was talking about Bleed. Let me click this fucking thing that I need to click. So for those people who missed it, Bleed as an organization haven't been paying their players. They also had issues. Well, not allegedly. They just haven't been paying their players. You can use allegedly. I don't even like the fact that apparently like the CEO or whatever of the company's got a court case against them in Singapore for an assault charge or something too. Allegedly.
That's people. Yeah, I mean that's people kind of connecting the dots. I don't know if that's exactly what it is for, but it seems that could be.
Whatever just happened is now my packet loss is back.
Rough.
I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what to do about this. This is driving me over the fucking wall. Oh dear. I might just have to bounce. I can't. This is fucking killing me.
It is what it is.
I'll hold on. I don't know why this is happening. I turned everything off in the house. I restarted the router. It did
the refrigerator. Did you turn it off as well?
Yeah, I didn't turn that off.
Tea kettle and whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the Bleed situation is just it adds it gives at least a bit of more context to why the team was struggling. Not struggling, but didn't really reach the heights that it needed to. Just consider having this kind of troubles in the background, people not being paid literal salaries, prize money, can't pay for boot camps. Like that kind of stuff really takes the focus from the players, from where it should be, which is the game, onto dealing with a lot of bullshit, reaching out to management. Okay, why is this not getting paid? You're getting in like, how do I pay fucking, I don't know, your apartment or whatever you need to do, instead of just being like, yeah, this is fine. So that's the kind of frustrations that definitely makes the team play worse. I'm not saying that's an excuse for losing, I don't know, what is like 10-2 lead against Gamer Legion on the last map of the RMR qualifier, but it is definitely rough, and there's have to kind of feel for the squad.
Yeah, the thing is, I've been hearing about that for a little while. Like, I obviously not directly from the source, but through other parties about them not getting paid and stuff, which is it's a shame. But I expressed this sentiment the other day. The problem is this isn't uncommon. It's probably just uncommon when the business is owned or somehow adjacent to some guy that owns a recycling company in Singapore and is like a billionaire. You know, it's like that's where I don't understand how these things happen. Where
I mean, this is also
obviously money.
Yeah, it was also a fairly big organization. You know, and it's kind of crazy that like some of these basic things don't really get met, even at orgs at such a level. Of course, you kind of expected, you know, when you go down to number 50 in Europe, that there's going to be some bad actors there, you know. But if it's a team that performs on a high level in multiple esports games, that's where it gets kind of crazy.
Yeah, like this stuff you hope isn't going to exist, but it always will. That's the thing. There's bad actors in every space. And I know that's not meant to be like a catch-all statement, because I'm not trying to take away like from the scenario that the Bleed guys have found themselves in. And I think it sucks for like, because Kassad already has a target on his back from a community perspective, right? And then when there are things that are out of his control but in the way, you know, it just kind of adds fuel to the
to be
fire.
fair to Kassad, he kind of put that target on his back on his own. Like I don't think we need to feel super pitiful about that part about it.
Wouldn't we prefer people to be out there like expressing themselves and talking through the process, as opposed to just sitting there and saying nothing?
Yeah,
It's
of course,
like-
but I mean, it's something like you can't really blame people. Like when you hear Kasa talking shit about how everybody manages their team, and then doesn't deliver on the results. Of course, the context here is important. I mean, it's not like they were able to do that because of the situation that's going around, but people didn't know that until now, so you can't really blame them.
Well, apparently he was paying for like boot camps and stuff out of his
Yeah.
own pocket, right? So Kassab was doing everything within his power to try and make it a possibility. It's not that I would have said that the project was necessarily a success, and it's hard to weigh up what's obviously not a success. It's hard to weigh up exactly how much of an impact this stuff had, but I just know when I was in Renegades and we weren't getting paid, that it's tough. Like for us, we were living overseas and we weren't getting paid a lot of money. It was a pretty low salary. It was only like $2,500 US a month, which I don't know, to some people that's a lot of money, but in the space, it's not really. It's something that you shouldn't have to worry about, but you do. And then especially when you're more of like a leadership figure within the team, you're the one who feels responsible to kind of chase those things up. So it's a take of energy that shouldn't have to be there when you're wanting to compete at the highest of levels. So it's just sad, really. That's about it. Just sad.
Yep.
Okay, let's just fly through all of this. The Saw news. Harry, you touched on this earlier about arrozdoce looking for what options were open. Obviously, Berry's gone as well. Something seemed a little bit fishy about it, considering they were both a part of the same agency. But arrozdoce had just joined the agency, right? So I don't know.
He said that he decided to explore his options before he signed with LT. I think it was just part of the same thing of like, okay, so you want to explore your options, you should probably sign.
You want to get an agent,
right? It's the chicken, not the egg, basically. But yeah.
I don't want to badmouth agents because I don't really know what they do, but I kind of feel like they get in the way. I mean, things I've ever heard from anybody about agents is always negative. I never hear anything positive. I mean,
because usually you're probably going to hear it not from the players who are being managed by them, but by the orgs who have to deal with them, who are obviously getting kind of bogged down with dealing with agents who are being a piece of shit, but just working on behalf of their players. Of course, it doesn't mean that there are no bad actors or anything like that, but I'm just saying maybe you're getting it from just one side of it.
No, true. That is true.
I don't think they're necessarily bad or good. It doesn't really matter for me in this kind of a case. I think like, what the fuck is Saw doing? Like, how is this making them better at the major? Like, why are they not?
It's not at all, right?
Like, I understand. Like, sometimes you need to cut your losses and like say, okay, this tournament is not important, but a player leaving a team is a normal process in any sport. Like we spoke about the whole MOUZ situation earlier, where obviously they're going to get some offers. So what are you going to just bench Jimmy? You're going to bench Exertion because like someone approached them and they're like talking. Like this is completely unreasonable. So I don't know if there's something in the story that is not public that we're missing, that he like acted completely egregiously, always possible. But as a concept, it's absolutely ridiculous to bench your maybe best player, arguably probably up there, and then your
top two for sure.
Your coach before the major, where you can make like a deep run and then sell him or let him go, whatever, and then you have some points. You're in a better standing for next year and build off of that. Like we're going to bring in this new guy who I don't know how good he is going to be, but he's not going to be the arrozdoce.
I mean, if you look at statistically, even like playing in tier 2 Europe, he's way off. He's way off compared to arrozdoce, who's obviously been a big factor in Saw's rise in recent history. So I mean, it does put them completely out of contention for a spot at the major in my eyes.
Yeah, well, the guy that they got used to be on FTW with arrozdoce and Story, right? So it's Agil. I don't know, probably butchering that.
I like the accent.
Thank you very much. I'm working hard on it.
Someone said if
Tell you
I know arrozdoce will get his sticker according to Perfect World, but will Saw pay that money to arrozdoce or to Agil? But the thing is, like the individual, the player sticker money will go to him because that's how Valve works. But usually players get a cut of the team sticker money as well. And I don't know how that's going to work. Actually, that's a different.
I mean, presumably he would get none of that.
Well, I don't know
I'm
about
talking
that.
about
Because,
arrozdoce.
well, maybe not, because I mean, if he's not playing the RMR and he's not the one who earns the spot at the major, I mean, why would Saul give anything to him, right? I
Exactly.
mean, that's also. Oh, okay. I thought you were saying the opposite. Fair enough.
No, I'm in agreement in the sense that arrozdoce wouldn't get any of the team
Right,
sticker
yeah.
money, right? But
exactly.
the stand-in or the new edition would.
Yeah.
Yes, he's not a stand-in, is he? Is he a
I
stand-in?
mean, it all depends. No, I think they pretty much said that he's joined.
Signed. Okay.
At least they haven't said anything that would suggest it's just a substitute or a stand-in. Or
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he was playing for someone else, so I assume
he was in
Rhino.
Rhino before, yeah.
Yeah.
We can skip the ends discussion if you guys want, because we're kind of late, and we
Yeah.
can go
Sure,
to the
yeah.
32 team major. I don't know if it got picked up in the thing, because I think
No,
I put it in late.
I'll write it in. But Lucas can. There's the article if you want to
Yeah,
bring
because
it up.
I put it in, but I forgot to tell Lucas to import like last minute, because
Yeah.
the article
I'll just
came later.
change the title to. There we go.
Because this is let's go around the room and just say like thumbs up or thumbs down. I'll say thumbs down.
Yeah, you replied to my Instagram post. I saw that, and you
Yeah.
tweeted as well.
What do you think?
Do I have to give a thumb up
Well,
or a thumb down?
You can't show it because your camera's not working, so you can have to say something.
Mine would be in the middle. My thumb would not be up or down. It would be
Okay.
horizontal.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. It's like, I don't think the 32 teams thing is the problem. I think the like 4 Swiss stages is the bit
Yeah.
I don't like. Like there's so like 32
Pretty,
teams.
but,
There's so many formats in the whole world, and you choose like 4 Swiss stages with teams skipping 2 stages. Like this just I can't. do
Yeah,
that.
I mean that's about my feelings about it. I have a lot of feelings about it, so it's kind of hard to put it together, because it goes much deeper than what I talked about even in the article. And I'm not saying that there's like more information that we don't know. It's more about the angles to this are endless, and it's about how open the majors are with 2025 in mind. You know, that only being 32 teams, where in before, at least, if let's say this only becomes invite only, before at the beginning we had unlimited opportunities in terms of who could get to the major, because there were open qualifiers everywhere. So literally anybody could make it there within months from the major starting, could have qualified for the major. Then we went to about 100 teams having a chance for Shanghai, where the open qualifiers got removed, and I don't know how many teams got invites to the close qualifiers, but let's say 60 or something like that got invites to the close qualifiers, or 80 or somewhere close to 100. So we had about 100 teams have a real shot at qualifying for the major, and now we're going down probably even lower, with the fact in mind that there's probably not going to be a lot of open qualifiers across the system, the new circuit, at least not for 2025, until Valve realizes this is a problem. So that's like what it was on my mind when I was writing this, and I was like heading into an opinionated piece. Like halfway through it, I realized I was getting into like different layers of this that I realized I shouldn't be, and so I'll just do like a separate opinion piece about what it means, what's the unintended change, the unintended effect of this change and all that stuff. Overall, I have my problems with it. I don't think there's any problem with it being increased to 32. I do think that how they did it is, I'm not happy about that, because I've always been an advocate in terms of adding the extra Swiss stage. I mean, from my conversation before, it always go ahead.
Just to ask, essentially we'll just have 3 Swiss systems in a row.
Oh yeah, I made an image. Lucas, show the image.
Teams. Okay, we got an image.
Yeah.
I made the image.
The way, look, this is not, I don't have this 100%, but the way that, from all the information that I got, I understood it this way, yes. That we would have 3 Swiss stages, basically the same major we would have, except with an extra stage ahead of that, which would mean 16 teams would start from the first stage, 8 teams would be invited to the second, 8 teams would be invited to the third, and then there are playoffs, So top 8 teams, let's say based on the ranking, would start 2 stages ahead. In what now is elimination stage, who knows what kind of names they're going to come up with that extra one, but yes, that is how it seems that it's going to be. Yes,
I don't know, he can't find it, but hold up, let's see. I just linked it to him again. So because I think what I wanted to do, I'm a bit frazzled. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get myself back together with all the shit that's been going wrong. What I wanted to do with this conversation was first like state what we believe to be the case with this, so that people can understand, and then kind of give our opinions on it. Because like I know we're already deep down. Lucas, do you have the link? Whack that up. Okay.
Right.
So this is basically what Striker had just said. So there's 32 teams are going to be invited to the major based on the VRS, the Valve ranking system, right? This means there's going to be a total of 16 days of play. You got 4 days of play per Swiss stage and then 4 days for the playoffs.
Yep.
So stage 1, as I'm calling it, which it could be called whatever. Scroll down, Lucas. Get us down. It's a nice long image. I made this as tough as possible. Stage 1, 16 teams, Swiss. Best of 1 establishes best of 3 qual/limb. Now, that's not announced, but assuming that's what they're going to do still, right?
Yeah.
I don't imagine why they
I don't
would
think
change
there are
that.
like wider changes, at least. At least I haven't heard anything of the kind, for sure.
So of that, 8 teams will progress to stage 2, where 8 teams will be waiting. And those teams will also qualify, like all the teams will qualified by the VRS. It just, we don't know what the slot distribution is going to look like. I imagine the slot distribution will have something to do with, as it normally does, the previous major and how well regions perform within those areas, right? But I would, again, think that the 16 teams that begin in stage 1 are probably going to be from the outlying regions, the majority, right? Your Asian teams, probably your lower seed Americas teams, for example, and maybe your lower seed European teams. Stage 2 is going to be the same thing.
That's assuming they don't just do top 32 worldwide, by the way. I mean, that's...
But I don't think they would do that because they've always wanted to keep it global.
I also don't believe that they would do that. I'm just pointing out the worst case scenario.
Yeah, I don't think that'll be the case. Like, this is where opinions come into this, right? That's why I wrote unofficial at the top. But I feel like the 16 will still say somewhat regionally driven to some degree to make sure that all the regions get an opportunity, because the majors are going to be the one chance that teams from Asia/Oceania can make a dent, unless you're the Mongols. Because that's a huge issue we're going to have next year with a lot of these invitations to these events based off of the VRS. If the TOs just follow the rules, they don't have to invite anybody regionally. They could just invite all the best 16 teams every single time.
And the rules are making it quite hard for them to invite regionally as well. I mean,
yes,
there's so much fuckery with that Valve, I think, did not anticipate. I'm hoping we will understand that once we see what ESL come up with. Anyway, go ahead.
Yes. So now we move into stage 2. So there's 8 teams waiting. They'll be joined by those 8 teams from stage 1. Same situation again. From there, we sift through and we try to find another 8 teams. So we're going to join 8 teams already waiting. Same scenario again. So now we're 3 Swiss stages deep, then we move into the playoffs, which would be the stage 4, I guess you could call it. 8 teams, single elimination, best of 3 all the way through, and that's what we're used to. So it's just one extra set of Swiss, which, look, there's a couple of things that you guys have brought up here. One, I've seen people in chat. One, I've had a bunch of tweets or Instagram messages, is people feel it's taking away the prestige, but we had that conversation when it went from 16 to 24, right? This is mainly a boomer mentality, I'd say. But then people are aware on the flip side of that it's going to add another bunch of teams, another 8 teams to the ecosystem to potentially, because we're making an assumption again, to get stickers, right? To then add money back to either players directly or orgs. So keeping the scene afloat in that direction from the direct contributions of the members of the community around the world. The other thing is the format. Harry, you touched on it, more Swiss. I've seen that as a lot of people talking about best of 1s or just too much Swiss, or, is it going to be a best of 5 final? The format's been another big conversation. Yeah. But I want everybody just to quickly loop back to the chat we were having about the stats for HLTV and how it's going to be a work in progress and how essentially it's always going to be a work in progress. It's the same with Valve. I think if we want to try and find the best teams from each of these different stages, then Swiss is probably the best way to do it, because it's like, you're getting out a big, like I said, you're kind of sifting for gold, right? Like that's what we're doing here. We're going through that process, and the biggest pushback is the best of 1. But I'm going to put out a really unpopular opinion. I think if you have any format where you have 3 opportunities to be eliminated, I don't mind the fact there's best of 1s in the opening rounds. It's so many games of Counter-Strike. If we go back to the Starladder version and we do Swiss best of 3 the whole way through, imagine if we did Swiss best of 3 the whole way through for fucking 3 different Swiss stages. Do you know how much Counter-Strike that would be? That is actually insane. Like, it's
there's
not
also
acceptable.
There's different ways you can deal with that, by the way. I mean,
change the format. Don't do triple elimination. Do double elimination bracket.
Swiss, or do 1 Swiss with 32 teams.
Yeah,
like
that's
Swiss
fine.
was designed for like 256 random people turning up for a chess event. Like that. Yeah. That is what Swiss is for. Like, there's no reason it has to be 16 teams, like, ever.
Well, one of the reasons is financial, right? To have 32 teams on site with the requirement of all the PCs and everything. And we know that Valve aren't going to pay for that. They just pay for the flights and accommodation of the players as well as the prize money, right? So they're not going to pay for the outlay of the TOs. They're not going to pay for that. And that's so much money.
That was a problem, but it's kind of crazy that they don't.
I have to say something. Have you ever seen anything like this? in
It's
any
ridiculous.
competition.
It's ridiculous.
Have you ever seen anything like this? This makes no fucking sense. No one wants this. No one asked for this. Actually, we asked for the inverse of this. We asked for less skipping stages because it's ridiculous. It just makes unequal grounds for teams to play based on you have more points in the tournament before, you played better 3 months ago, you should skip 4 days of competition. What kind of bullshit is this? Not 4 now, so you can skip 8. What the fuck is going on? Why does someone need to play like 10 15 maps more to get to the spot where you are starting? Like, what is the point of this? Like, why do we want qualifiers? Then have a fucking qualifier. Don't make the half of the tournament a qualifier for the tournament that is happening. It doesn't make, I hate it so deeply. It's so stupid. Like 30, funnily enough, I went back to search for the episode where we are like perfect major format. And I put out my whole thing for the 32 team major. And Harry was actually there. Obviously, you claimed it was your idea. It was my idea. You stole it from me in the press room and just tweeted it out. Insane scenes. But let's leave this. Currently, we're fighting the same enemy.
Allegedly,
we're fighting the same enemy here, Harry. What the fuck is this shit? This is, and I understand that 32 teams at one time is expensive. I don't care. I don't want this. Then just keep it 24. This is just absolutely stupid.
I'm also not sure. Like, I mean, that's kind of obviously it's like 100 PCs extra or something like that. But I don't think that's necessarily such a big problem as just like the fuckery of having 32 teams in the same place and how many like player managers and all that stuff you need to have. Like
PGL doesn't need any player managers. You don't need any player managers. Just give them $1,000 and they can hire their own manager.
Yeah.
And that's I don't really care. We have gone so far in this direction of like ESL, like Blast, E-League, Hospitality, and PGL during Copenhagen have shown that you don't need to do that. Some teams will complain a bit, but it's still a major and they'll show up and they'll shut up and play the games. And for the most part, it's not going to actually matter. So we can do that. So we just need to cut some corners and stop like spoiling everyone. That's it.
It's also the idea that every game has to be streamed with the full setup of like every game has to be treated completely equally. Like with the full stream setup as well. Like, because obviously if you're doing a 32 team group stage, then it's going to do like 8 streams. Like that just doesn't need to be a thing. Like,
no, I agree.
Like you just have like a CBS Galazzo, like a Sky Super Saturday or something. You have these kind of low tier games going on at the same time. Everyone can stream it because that was one of the things that we'll miss from the RMRs and the RMR qualifiers. Was all the new commentators coming up, all of the co-streams, things like that. You just pick the best game. It's not hard to pick the best game. Stream the best game properly. Maybe have a B stream, fine. Pick like the best free games even if you want to hire quite a lot of talent. But you could do 2 games. And just play games, just play the games, because it is worth trying to make a format better than a 16-team format. The kind of whole thinking around this is to have 2 streams going on at the same time that are equal, right? And that just doesn't need to be a thing, I don't think.
No, I agree. Like even when ESO was doing, they were doing 3 streams. I was like, why the fuck do we need like? The production quality took such a dive by the time you got to the C stream. It was like, why don't you just have this IP available publicly and let everybody just fucking stream it? And if you really want to be a stickler about the sponsor stuff, then just like make that part of the deal.
Harder or something,
right? Yeah, exactly. Provide something that, hey, if you want to stream this, you have to put this up. And like, fair enough. Like I agree. Like we've gotten to such a point where this level of like quote unquote professionalism or what we're pushing for, it's not what Counter-Strike is or was. Like we've and I understand that these TOs are trying to make money and stuff, but I'm pretty sure you make money on a major. That narrative has changed now. Yeah. It used to not be the case. A couple years ago, I remember I was on the soapbox going, people don't make money, it's not even from majors. And then in the last couple, that's changed. That dialogue has changed. Now, why has that changed? I don't know. I'm not.
I mean, from what I understand, I mean, Blast, at first they weren't even interested in hosting majors. Then they hosted Paris. It did very well for them, from what I heard. And that's why they're doing Austin as well. Yep. That's why they started pitching more. So that's not a thing.
No, that narrative has definitely changed for sure. But a lot of that comes down to like KPIs of
and like why do you think PGL can do majors and internationals and all that stuff all the time as a relatively small Romanian company compared to like this behemoth that is ESL Blast, not so much to the same degree, but still, yeah. It's like, why do you think they can do that? Because they make money off of that. They stay profitable thanks to being able to host the biggest event of the calendar, consistently.
But this returns, go
just to say, I just want to say, with MR12, 4 best of 3s per day is doable.
Yes.
We have seen that. Maybe some games will end a bit later. Some will maybe start a bit earlier, but it's a fucking major, and
They're right. The CSPPA doesn't exist to complain when the game goes past midnight anymore, Prof. So it's all good.
We can do that. Also, I feel like if every grand final is best of 5 and the major isn't, it's kind of lame. Even as a hater of best of 5s, I think with MR12 it makes it better. Like with MR15, I would always say no, but with MR12, I think it's fine. And if every tournament is doing it, I think it just makes the major look kind of silly. And that's it. Like on that day, we're not doing anything else. That's
Valve's argument on that, and I know it because I was talking to him in fucking Copenhagen. Will just be from the standpoint. Well, didn't we going into Copenhagen have like how many majors was it in a row where it didn't even go 3 maps?
Yeah, lots, I don't know, 6, 7, something like that.
Prof, don't argue with me. I'm just telling you what Valve said. All right, they were like, well, we need to go 3 maps first. We need to go 3 maps first before we fucking, So.
But that's fair. That's a very interesting statistic, but it's also like that's one of the stats that actually makes no fucking sense and doesn't really matter. So we're just like looking at majors.
Yeah, it's
now.
like we're looking at the outlier.
All the other tournaments do not matter, like because we're not playing Counter-Strike there. We're playing fucking mini golf or what?
Yeah, it's funny how the tournaments with good seeding have the best teams in the final and the final.
Funny that.
That's really crazy.
Funny, that's so nuts, isn't it? What a wild coincidence that is.
I'm actually so tilted about all of this, and we didn't even start about the RMR removal, which I know.
But we already knew.
I know it was gonna happen, and I still think it's so dog shit. It's such a fun thing. It was so fun. I guess its problem is the RMR was guilty of being too fun. Because it's more fun and more exciting than the fucking major, so we gotta fucking put it down. Like fuck this shit. It was great. I'll always remember the RMRs. It's like the build up, the open qualifiers as well. Obviously, to some degree, we can get a lot of the teams by expanding the closed qualifiers. We can still have a lot of the stories that we had in the past of the Pentas, the Bad News Eagles, Movistar Riders going from the open qualifiers to the major. We probably kind of cover that, but now that is just going away. So this whole Cinderella story of people making it from nowhere is just gone. For what reason exactly? I still haven't heard a reason why this was necessary.
Let me try and play devil's advocate, because like the purist in me wants the major to be the 32 best teams in the world just playing against each other, right? And I think as much as the RMR is amazing, like especially like it's like my favorite event I've been to cover is being in the room when people qualify for the major. But as a qualification system for the major, it made the major visibly worse.
Yes.
Because it was a very bad way to qualify teams to a major. I'm not saying that direct invites off a ranking system is better because it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? But I think it is way better than a one-off tournament where you could, like just be ill for 2 days and you're O2 and you're just gone, right? Like it was exciting, but exciting doesn't mean good. The major is the pinnacle of the circuit and it should be the best event. And having the best teams there make the major better. And I'd rather have a better major than a good RMR.
The great thing about being ill for 2 days and going out is that can also happen at the major. So what then? What then, Harry?
You picked the one flimsy part. The major is the best tournament of the year. I want the best teams there.
Yeah,
and the RMR was crap at that. It was terrible at doing that.
I agree with that sentiment.
Also, you have 3 games to lose, and honestly, if it was fully best of 3, better seeded, I think it's fine. But it is what it is. There's some merit to it. I'll give it to you because I'm not here just to say you're wrong.
Not in this case, at least.
Look, I think that what is a positive is the fact that, and I'm making an assumption here, we get more teams being able to earn money directly through the game. through the sticker money.
That's for sure. I mean, well, not for sure. We don't know that they're actually all going to get it, but
if they do all get it, then yes, and that helps the ecosystem from a broader perspective.
I'll counter that.
Yes,
and I will tell you because of the. I'll give you one example, right? And it's kind of an egregious one, but it's one that is kind of the most recent. Entropic, as a result of the removal of open qualifiers, just literally dropped the CS team.
Yes.
How many more times do you think we will see this when teams realize that they will have to get into the circuit to even have a chance to qualify for the major, and they have to do well consistently over an entire year? How much fewer of those do you think we will see? When the amount of teams that can realistically look, I'm not saying that it's good, that it's bad. I'm just saying in terms of the argument of, there's going to be more money spread around, or more teams. There's going to be a lot less money going into the game as a result of organizations not seeing a reasonable path to a major. And that's obviously going to be a problem because of the open qualifier question that I talked about. Of course, like I'm not trying to argue that this is a bad thing, to get rid of the organizations that are only here to get the payback from the payoff from the major, fluke their way to the major and get the sticker money off of that, and then just never return to any sort of relevance. Obviously, that's bad for the game. I mean, what good does that do us? I'm just talking about, because of the system being flawed in the first place, these organizations, even the ones that mean well and they want to do well, they will not see a reasonable path to the major at this point, because there's not enough windows of opportunity for them to enter the cycle and then qualify for the major and then get some sort of a payoff back where they can keep going for longer. Like all this, I agree with that, but then again, there's going to be 30 teams versus these 8 more that are going to get stickers that are probably going to struggle justifying putting up so much money for a team when they know it's highly unlikely that they will make it to the major as a result of it being even more closed than it possibly was before.
Yeah, but I'd argue a team like Bleed is probably like this. The Bleed situation is directly related to
not qualifying.
What was the mood in organizations after Paris? Because the major being this lottery ticket to just survive, like, oh, we don't need to worry about it because if we qualify for the major, like, and just dumping money on players, like, we should want a scene where it's self-sustaining in the way that a team, you want to find a team that does well, and it does well, not just to, like, you don't want to just gamble on an open qualifier, and I do kind of hate the regional split as well sometimes, because like just all of these like Middle Eastern qualifier teams, like it's just, this is like, I know why you want the regional split and not just the 32 best teams. Like I get that for like Oceania and stuff, like it makes sense, but it's just so easy to take advantage of. And it just, like, if drillers get it to the major, I'm just going to be quite upset about it, to be honest. Like, I just will be.
They're not going to qualify, so don't worry about it.
Well, yeah, but
they've got to get past Mongols, Linvision, FlyQuest. There's no way, bro.
Yeah, like there's good enough teams, but I think you could abuse that more. I think even like a team like Liquid, like it still sits a bit wrong with me that they're going to be in an easy RMR, and just because they got really unlucky in the last one, like I still think there's a bit of improvement in the way you decide things like that.
I mean, I kind of lean towards the striker side of like openness creates more opportunity, and maybe some people will be bad actors, but some will be good actors, and that the possibility of someone new coming in and doing something good to disrupt, let's say, the known orgs that exist, for example, or someone coming from a different game and investing in CS because there is a path to the majors and sustainability through that to get to that point. I think that's I think we're losing a crucial part of like freshness, like fresh people, fresh ideas, fresh investment. And it doesn't really matter in the end if most of these people will lose money, because people lose money on esports anyway. So
yeah, but that's holistically the problem with the space. And this is something that I talk about a lot, is like, I would prefer that we have more teams like Bad News Eagles than we do teams like Entropic, because there's stuff. Okay, let's edge into next year a little bit. It was something that I was talking to you guys about in the group chat earlier today, right? So next year, the word on the street is a lot of the top teams are just going to continue to play for the same events that they already play for, right? Because now they get the choice. But the reason that next year was going to be exciting is because we were meant to move away from partner leagues, which in theory we are. But in practice, the teams can attend whatever events they want. Now, the reason that this is strange is because you have a couple of different methodologies being tested, right? PGL are going, we're going to put up the most prize money without a doubt, which I really like. I like the fact that PGL are doing that, because what it should do in the circuit that I would like to see is encourage people to go bounty hunting, right? Like to be going out there and going, well, we're going to make sure we gear up for the events with the most prize money so we can win the prize money. But that's only good for the players, not the orgs. The orgs need the guaranteed revenue, which is what the Blast and potentially the ESL systems will have. Yeah. So as an organization, I'm incentivized to go to Blast and ESL over PGL. As a player, I'm incentivized to go to PGL. But as a player, especially in a top team, I get paid an absurd amount of money. So the conversations that I understand that have happened, and this is not verbatim, this is just the gist, is if I'm an org owner of a top team, I sit my players down and I say, next year's going to be really busy. We're going to attend these events so we can continue to pay you 20,000 euros a month. However, if you would like to pick your own events, we can cut your salary in half and you can choose and go whatever events you want. And if you win, then you get lots of money. If you don't, then you don't get lots of money. And I would imagine if I was a player, unfortunately, this feels anti-competitive, but I tell you, this is how it is, guys, when you're taking food out of someone's mouth, is that they're going to have the choice of, let's just go with the safe money, the guaranteed payment that I can get from my huge org. But we are in a scenario where these orgs, right? This is the thing that people need to understand about team orgs or people running events, is if you give them more money, they will spend more money. It doesn't work that there's no magic amount of money that you will give them and they will stop spending that money. They will keep spending. They will keep spending and spending and spending and spending and spending. That's just the way this works. It's just, unfortunately, the way this works. So when you find yourself in the scenario that we're looking at, and then you relate this to the major in the way that we're having this conversation about orgs not being able to come in, right, and be able to find a way through, I like the idea of 5 guys getting together, playing some high-level Counter-Strike and going to the major and earning 150 grand each from stickers, and then that is their salary until the next major rolls around. But unfortunately, we've ballooned into this scenario now where we have these fucking titans of organizations, and then we have these minnows of organizations, and everybody wants to be involved in like that kind of a top org thing. But there's only so many top orgs. There's only so much sponsor money from Europe or from America or from this that can go around to these organizations to keep them afloat.
Yep.
And that's just the thing we live in. And that's why everybody wants to be part of Vitality or Liquid or FaZe, right? Like one of these top orgs. But not everybody can be. There's only so many spots. So I don't know. And we're going to continue to evolve and we're going to continue to change over all these years. And I don't know where we're going to end up. And I don't know what the most sustainable is. Nobody does. Because if we did, we'd be there. But we're not there. We're always changing. And that's what we have.
Whatever
massive change
we have been doing was not sustainable. But what is even sustainable? Sustainable
exactly,
for who, you know?
It hasn't shut down yet.
I think
the players are getting paid for the most part, you know. Shout out to Kassad. But most of them are getting paid and getting paid pretty well, you know. Tournaments are happening. HLTV is running, you know. People are watching games. So are some TOs going underground? Yes. Are some people unpaid after shit goes to, you know, where it goes when everything bankrupts? Yes, but that happens everywhere, unfortunately. You know, it's not I don't know, this whole like idea of sustainability is it's a very vague term.
Exactly.
And I don't think we were sustainable, and I don't think what's happening next year is sustainable either. So, you know, if TOs want to spend so much money that they're spending and revenue share with teams who are also spending more than they're earning, but somehow finding investors to like bankroll the thing and not close, then, you know, it is what it is. I'm fine either way.
Yeah, I think the evolution which we might see, which might actually, like, for me at least, be fine, is the Cinderella runs are going to happen at the different tournaments and not at the major. Because like a team like, so say 3D Max over the last 5 months, right? They're underfunded. You wouldn't say they've got a great star player. Like even they've had some like alleged pay issues or whatever. Yeah. But they're consistently playing all these tournaments and doing really well. They've become a proper gatekeeping team. They're like 20th in the world, and they just get invited to the major because they've been consistent. They've been a good team for 6 months. Like it's a very different narrative. Like it's a less sexy narrative than Bad News Eagles turning up, winning a few best of ones and like screaming at a social media camera. Like, it's a very different story, obviously, right? But I think
it's
the
also
3D Max story, and like next year they would just be at the major. They'd just be invited to the major, and they would be rewarded for that 6-month hard work of being really consistent.
but
Like,
as a viewer,
that's just as
as
good
a
a Veritas.
viewer, are you more excited about like 3D Max got an email, you're invited, you now have stickers, and you got $1 million as an email at home, you know, versus something that actually has like a build up
like a,
through an
like
actual
a direct,
game.
like a direct.
You
Well,
actually
as a
influence
casual,
this.
as a
That's what
casual,
everyone's good for.
Or even better,
It's
people just like people are gonna be like in a quarterfinals of Elisa Masters Espoo, win a game and know that they're mathematically qualified for the major and gonna fucking pop off like they won the biggest tournament ever. And
I think that's
gonna be it.
slightly, but that's why maybe what you were talking about, you know, the RMRs being actually the best thing on the circuit, you know, that's where it's kind of backwards. You know, you kind of want that to be at the major rather than at the qualifying event for the major. You know, and that's obviously it is the result of stickers, and that's kind of the biggest, not necessarily for all the players, but very often it is the idea that they get their own sticker and all that stuff in the game, and that's like their
Crowning
achievement. That's their achievement, you know, rather than actually doing well at the major, you know, which, like, I understand it. Like, for some people, you know, just getting to the Olympics is also enough, and all that stuff. Like, that alone is a massive achievement, and like, not everybody can be the best team in the world and getting all the accolades and all that stuff. But I do think that, as much as I love the RMRs for that, for all these pop-ups and like for these moments where teams or players realize they've made it to the major and all that stuff, I do think that they've outgrown the majors in terms of excitement sometimes, exactly because of that reason, you know. So to see it spread over an entire season, I mean, not only is more sustainable for those teams, assuming that, you know, the window of opportunity to enter that cycle is better than what I anticipated to be in the next year. That is more valuable to the scene, you know, rather than these one-time flukes or one-time qualifications that might mean a lot in that moment, you know, but over a period of time, they're not really going to pay back. Like, that team's never going to be at the major again, or, you know, there's just not going to be any consistency to those results, you know. So obviously, for the majors, in an ideal world where the open component is there to such a degree that, you know, there's not going to be a problem with getting into the circuit, then it's much better for the scene if they earn this place at a major through consistent results. So I'm not against the idea of kind of invite only majors, you know, but it's more about being able to say that the groundwork for that, you know, the grassroots scene or whatever it is that, you know, helps feed these teams into the cycle or into the circuit is actually going to be functional. And that's my problem at the moment.
I actually kind of I'm thinking about it now, and maybe I have everything wrong. Maybe everything is actually, maybe the idea is actually really good as it is, because what I was thinking is I don't have a problem with teams getting invited directly to the major, but I don't think all teams should get invited directly to the major. So like, if there was some form of a qualifier for some teams, let's say some form of an RMR or the main qualifier that existed before, so some teams would still have that step up where they need to show up on the day and, you know, win the actual game. I would be okay with that. But isn't that actually what they did?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
So, but if they do,
but the revenue split isn't.
If they
based on the results.
if they just do top 24 having the stickers, then that would effectively get the excitement of the RMRs built into the major, right into the first stage of the major. The only problem is if they're doing this format, it's going to feel so insanely repetitive to have 3 Swiss systems in a row. So if they change that up maybe in some way, then I think it would actually make sense. It would actually be good. But yeah,
Prof, I think we need to let go of this idea for the greater good, though, because I understand what you're saying, but like the teams at the top, they're going to disagree with this wholeheartedly. I don't mean the players, I mean the orgs. Like, they're the ones who have sponsors and other support, right, to get money, whereas the teams at the bottom of that 32 are the ones traditionally without.
Robin Hood right here.
I think it should be this.
Yeah.
I think it should be the same. Like we were talking about already with contracts, is like no one likes how risk averse like players are. Like I think it would be more fun if, you know, like Astralis don't qualify for the major, right? Well, your salary's cut in half, right? So for the major, why are we still doing sticker sales based on just your capsule and it's equal? Because at the moment you don't want to win the major, you just want to be in the same capsule as NAVI.
Well, you
and
do
then
want to
just
win
get
the
all
major
money
because
like
you
that.
get the gold. You get the gold
Yeah,
capsule,
win the
right?
major. But second to the major matters less than if you're in
True,
NAVI
true,
capsule
true.
money wise.
Yes.
So if you just make it, so if you
Or like
come
phase, I
32nd to the
think.
major, you shouldn't get that much sticker money. Like it's kind of more of a brand viewership deal, like a ESL or Blast event that everyone's criticized for the last 5 years.
But I would
Like if the
say
sticker
that
money's linked to your result, then it incentivizes different things.
True.
Okay, I would say that I mean, it's not obviously quite directly linked to a result, but at least with the last major and how the capsules were determined, because it was based strictly on invites and it wasn't just about how you got to the major. Then the best teams, the top 8 teams, got the most money. Of course, it's at the time of the invite rather than how you actually do at the major.
Yeah.
But effectively, I mean, Messiozo was saying this on Twitter, I think earlier today, where he was saying that this major was by far the most lopsided in terms of the highest capsule got by far more, the most money out of everybody because it had all the big teams. It had all the best teams, and obviously, we got most of those best teams also the furthest in the tournament. Partly because I mean they also get to skip a stage, so it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy in that way as well. But we're heading that direction exactly because of the invite system working more on merit rather than 6 months delayed merit. That it used to be before, even a year delayed merit. Where you got an invite to a major just because you played at the 2 times ago. So at least it's getting better in that direction. And the lower teams, the lower capsules were getting fairly low amount of money compared to the big one.
You can even do it like there's like plain stickers for the first stage, and then the second stage you re-release like foils and plain stickers, and then the third stage is like a hollow, like a nice hollow, and then the fourth stage, like for the playoff teams, you release another capsule and it's got like a keychain for each team, or like a agent skin with an Astralis jersey on it or something. Like there's ways to do it in different ways than just like the status quo, I think.
I agree.
But
I mean,
let's step back a second, right? Because what we're talking about, I think, is from a competitive standpoint, right? And what because Harry, your overall sentiment of you would prefer, like, the major should be the pinnacle of the season. You prefer to have the 32 best teams there, right? Like, I agree with that. But what do we think, like, and I know we can't really know. We've all had different levels of conversations with Valve. But what do we think, like, Valve would be thinking contrary to against that or for that, or what is Valve's goal? Do Valve even really care? Because to them, they're going to get the money. They're going to get 50% of the money earned anyway. Look, and money doesn't matter to them. So I don't know.
I can't speak for everything, but at least, I mean, if you put yourself in Valve's shoes, they're faced with a problem that the circus is now way too saturated for there to be any sort of reasonable qualifiers for the major, right? And they've also shown in the past where they were much more interested in having invites to the major decided based on multiple RMRs. I mean, if you remember the first iteration of the RMRs, it was 3 different events leading up to the Rio major, right? That was the idea originally, where it was going to be spread around, at the time it was a year because we were kind of waiting for COVID to be over, but it was multiple events. And their idea was to have existing events act as qualifying events for the major, but it obviously turned out to be its own thing rather than, tournament organizers suggesting their own events for the RMRs because, the requirements, for what needed to be an RMR wasn't really in line with what the TOs wanted for their own events. So they just put this on top of what they already had, what they were already putting into the circuit. So that's Valve's thinking. I mean, we've already seen signs that they were going to do this. It was fairly obvious that they were heading in this direction. Also with the removal of qualifiers, open qualifiers, if you're faced with a cheating problem in open qualifiers and it's something that is very, very difficult to solve for the moment, that's how we got open qualifiers axed from the system. I'm not saying that that's necessarily the only reason, but I'm sure it contributed to that happening. And then obviously those results are also ones that you can't really rely on because who knows what else is going on, behind the scenes when an online tournament is happening. I mean, we saw that with the coaching scandal and all that stuff, things that can happen if you leave people playing from their homes and all that stuff. So I think it's just a result of a lot of things that have happened in the past few years that were already trending in this direction for Valve, and they were just now faced with the problem that there cannot be additional qualifiers, and so this is their solution, to it. And I think in their mind, I think it's also even very reasonable, and I think me and Harry were talking about that angle, why not? Why wouldn't you think that this is the best way to host a major, the most on a like where there's the most merits going to the teams that actually qualify, you know, because you earn it over the course of an entire season, or let's say, I don't know, it could be 4 months of a season, because there needs to be some time before the major, you know, before you realize before you do the invites. So like in their mind, I'm sure it's much more of a meritocracy than it has been so far, because before you could win 2 best of 1s and a best of 3 and you're in the major, you know. So I think there's a lot of logic behind this, and I think there's a lot of sound logic behind this. I think the problem is more with the setup of the entire circuit around it. That's maybe not going to allow it to be the ideal scenario that they would hope for.
Yeah, it can be gamed. Yeah.
Well, the difference between like their original RMR plan, like I think, because they like the idea of having like an even playing field, like using the Valve ranking system, like that's not an even playing field, right? Like it doesn't reset after a major. So like the teams that are good now, like there is going to be a level of entrenchment of, if you're good now, you get invited to the good events, and it's going to be quite hard to lose that ranking. Like,
should it reset though? Because how do we measure it? Otherwise, we have to start somewhere.
That's the thing. Like you can't do it unless you did it like an RMR point system, which I think is just worse for actually getting the best teams at the major, which should be Valve's goal and probably everyone's goal.
Yeah. We could talk about this till the cows come home. Just for everybody playing at home, we're going to get Graham Messioso Pitt on the show next week, 22nd, 7 p.m. So same day, same time slot. And we're going to talk a bit more broader spectrum about everything that we know about next year. We're going to try and ask some questions as well of some of these TOs who are either yet to release things or things that they have released definitely don't comply. Obviously, ESL hasn't announced locations yet. We haven't heard about what's going on there, as well as like Blast's Rivals event also doesn't comply with the regulations as far as I understand. Maybe
there's going to be some changes to some things from what I hear.
Yeah. So we'll probably have a full lengthy conversation about this next week. So this is why we're just a bit more focused on the major and the 32 teams, et cetera, et cetera.
We forgot one thing, and that is what are the odds? I'm just going to put it out there.
Shit. Yeah, you're right.
I don't know how we skipped that. Yeah.
Well, we can go back to it. Lucas.
Just a small little tidbit. I had a guy whose Twitter handle and name is Kick Snacks and Taz message me in DMs, and the question is, "Hi there, any news about G2 kicking Taz and Snacks?" So there you go. That's just one from that forum. That's from my Twitter
that's a
DMs,
Maui snack.
Maui Snacks.
Maui Snake chat regular for sure.
I think G2 are one of the teams that are going to have a lot of changes, obviously, because of the Nico situation. So I think anything's possible over there for sure. All right, let's do the what are the odds. Let's bring this one up. This is brought to everybody playing at home by 1xBet. Now, if you're a regular viewer, you'll be familiar with this. If you're not, I will clue you in. Essentially, what we do is we pose a question every week. The people on the show are going to give a percentage of which way they think that this question is going to go. Then it will generate odds. You guys at home will get the opportunity on X and Instagram to place your votes. And it's essentially, if you get the prediction correct, it's putting money in a little bit of a pool, and at the end of the season, we will get that money, and then there'll be prizes available for people who watch the show. So this week's question for what are the odds are... Has it changed? I can't see.
There we go. What are the odds Jame will post a 105 or higher rating at the RMR? Rating 2.1, of course.
So he's been nerfed majorly, right? With the rating.
Yeah, quite
there's
majorly.
There's a screenshot of like the last like 12 months or something, and it's everyone has like a minus 50 KD, and then James like plus 212, and he's got the same rating as them.
Well, I think this is kind of crazy because fortunately this question came out at the same. Well, this question we have the groups. Have you guys seen what group VP you're in? You guys had a quick little scan.
G2 Spirit, Eternal Fire, VP Heroic, Astralis, Big 3D Max, NIP, Bait, Aurora, Passion, UA, which is their first opponent, Fairy Vision, Nine Pandas, Sashi, and TSM.
Pretty underwhelming group, huh?
Yeah, when you look at it.
When you look at Group A, that has,
isn't it?
Yeah, when you have Navi, Vitality, MOUZ, FaZe in one group, and then in the other group you have G2, Spirit, Eternal Fire.
Yeah, I mean the thing is with like G2 is kind of up and down, so now they were down, so they look bad, and Spirit is not in great form. Yeah. Eternal Fire obviously reached the grand final of VPL, and VP just made playoffs, and Heroic just made playoffs. So like these are the teams that kind of jumped recently, I feel like. So it feels a bit disbalanced for sure, but
Just quickly, someone's curious in chat. So there will be polls on Twitter/X and Instagram once we've concluded this now, and you guys will be able to vote in that when they come.
Yeah, I mean,
up
we
on the
can
social media
throw
channels.
it. We can throw this up at least so we can see the group, so we have everybody has the information of what group they're going to be playing in. I mean, this is not 100% confirmed, but I mean, based on seedings and all that stuff, it should be the groups, it should be the matchups and everything like that, unless there's some change in the format that hasn't been announced or, fuck up with the ranking, whatever it is. I mean, this is still pending confirmation from Perfect World.
We need to do what are the odds.
Oh, okay. I just wanted
We
to
can
pull
bring it up.
Okay.
It's all right. It's all right. We'll
Sure.
bring it up after. We
So
can talk about
as
it.
you were
We can show it
saying,
after.
they were playing Passion UA in the first match, and then they have, if we would name the best teams there, G2 Spirit, Eternal Fire, Heroic, Astralis are the next in line. That's kind of the competition that they're in.
Well, I feel like they should beat 50% of the field.
They should
Right.
get through. Sure, they should reasonably get through.
I'm gonna go like if you look at the opponents, let's just have a quick look at the opponents that they lose to. Right, we're talking about.
I'm worried there's so many Russian teams, man, there because they could lose to like all those Aurora, Paravision, Dun Pandas. Like I can see them upsetting VP.
I just don't have any faith in them, like as a team. So it's like it's really hard.
So here's a question that maybe is worth answering. Do we think that Jame, upon seeing the new and improved rating 2.1, will change his playstyle so that he can get better stats?
I don't think.
I
Jame
honestly
gives a
don't think
fuck.
so. Yeah, I don't think he does it for stats.
Okay.
I think there's some people who I think do things for stats, and that's the people who are like ultra aggressive suddenly against
On
ecos.
ecos. Yeah, I wonder.
I
who
think
they
the
are.
saving his orb is just for saving his orb. Like he just wants his orb.
Fair enough. I mean, I agree with you. I just wanted to put that as a question out there because it is one of the possible factors.
Yeah.
Let's say.
Well,
I got it up in rating 2.1. He's gone over 1.05 in 4 of the last 1, 2, 3, 4 like 10 events ish. Like 4 out of 11. Like it is
4 out of
doable
11.
even with the nerf.
yeah,
But
okay.
it is.
I mean,
There's like
even the last
35.
He has been at like a 1.0 rating for the last 6 months.
yeah, but
in
last
all
2
games.
he's 109, 105, so he has hit it in Pro League and Rio.
I'm gonna go with 50%.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I'm gonna sit. I'm gonna sit on the
50%
fence
I
virtual.
think 75.
real hard here.
I think it's a bit higher. I think there's bad competition.
Sorry, Lucas. I said 50%. Harry said 75.
So if you look at his last 6 months against top third, it doesn't really matter who he plays.
It's always the same.
Top 5 103, top 10 100, top 20 100, top 30 100, top 50 101. So it literally doesn't matter who he plays.
I'm gonna give it like 60%. I think it's just like the opposition is a bit lower here than on the average tournament he played, which is gonna push him over the limit, even with the new stats. They're not great for him, but I honestly think it will affect him. I think he will change the playstyle.
Okay.
Not like
Really?
insanely, but I think it will affect him
That's
a bit.
crazy.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see.
We should
What
do
do
an
you-
interview with him. You should Harry, you should talk to him.
What,
See-
did you
see what-
notice that he's just like, no, didn't look. Too
What
busy
about you,
watching, like,
Striker?
Kaiosuka demos or something.
I'm gonna do. Man,
Well, you
let's
think he's
say
going to?
over longer. Yeah, I mean, I'm trending towards yes, but I don't think too much. I'd say 55.
Yeah, I've gone
Okay.
quite high looking back, but I just think against bad teams, if they go like 3-1, I'm going to keep it. But if they go like 3-1, like
Yeah, but
You
the thing
should-
is,
you
like, I
should-
can see
all
them.
of
I
the
can also
teams
see
should
them
have higher
losing
than
to a lot of these
1.05.
teams, so it's kind of difficult. They've been up and down enough.
yeah, well, watch him get kicked after 1 best of 1. That's
Who's gonna play? Who's gonna
And
stand in?
Kyron
Like,
actually
who-
got kicked when
Kyron
his
coming
stats
back.
was good. Were good, So who knows? Maybe
Who's
VP don't give a shit.
Who's their sub?
Yeah.
Their sub is the coach Pashanosh, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he's not a great player. I've actually casted his games back in the day. So
That was doing a while ago. I think he's like 30 or something, Mr. Pashanosh.
What is this? What is this with like considering people who are 30 just like trash and old by default?
Well, it's definitely that's the case if you're not actively playing, right? Like,
Bro, look
Sorry.
at Device's stats for the year. What do you think Device's stats for the year are?
I don't know.
What do you
I'm
think
gonna
his
assume not
rating is?
good.
What do you think his rating
105.
is?
105.
Bro, isn't it even lower? I think
It's 107,
107.
Oh, okay. No,
but he's
no.
like 102 against top 20.
But if you put LAN only,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's-
it gets worse.
All right, well, there's the results. So you guys at home will be able to have your vote, yes or no, on the social medias when they do come up. This has been What Are the Odds, brought to you by 1xBet. I don't know, guys. I reckon it's worth a punt on the no, like for you guys at home. Why not? Give it a crack. This is.
I
one
mean,
of
honestly,
those,
I'm surprised you guys all went so high. I thought that was gonna be the only reasonable one here again.
You're always the only reasonable one. Yeah, we almost got the MOUZ winning arena trophy. That would add something to the tally, and we're waiting for Glaive to show up in Finland and play France. That's almost
I mean,
confirmed. So it's
basically
gonna-
confirmed. Yeah.
yeah. So, but let's see. We never know. We never know.
Yeah, I mean, we just had news that NIP are not gonna make it with
Maxter.
Miss
Jacob's gonna
Maxter.
be
Yeah,
standing
that's
in,
rough.
First as fuck. Work
Well,
first.
Let's just quickly touch on that, and then we'll be done because we're almost fucking on an hour over the schedule here. We were going to talk about some other bits and bobs, but that can wait. They're not pertinent. So, Elisa Masters Espoo is kicking off in like 1 day's time. The headlining teams there, I would say, are the Mongols Heroic and 9Z. Ents with a new roster. That French kid that like Apex and everybody's been praising is in the Ents team now, and Kaspersky, who probably would have been the standard, I imagine. He was part of the NIP Academy team, the Young Ninjas. He stood in for them earlier in the year at a Pro League season alongside a Blue Phoenix. He's seemed like a bit of a shy guy, maybe not within the server, but just when I was interviewing him and stuff. The other teams there are Bait, Yano, which is the Finnish team. Yeah. Rebels and NIP, but we just mentioned NIP. Okay, so let's go with the storyline each. I'll go first because then I don't have to think too hard. If the Mongols Heroic or 9Z don't win, it's a tragedy. That's my storyline.
Yeah, that's a fair storyline.
Very wide ranging storyline, but okay.
Thank you. I worked hard on that one.
Yeah.
For me, let's just say Heroic. I think building some confidence after Rio, showing that it's not like a one-off and that they don't need like a week off or 10 days to be on point again. And obviously with Warsaw, it's like a home event, so there's gonna be I think they don't need any reason to be like 100% hungry at this event. And if they're not, I think something is wrong with the team, essentially.
Okay.
Mine will be Bait because it's like I was actually looking through it. It's their
MP on a
first
head
LAN.
trick. Ooh.
It's first of all, it's their first LAN since the Blast major RMRs.
Okay.
They haven't really gotten out to play on the LAN before, and they've obviously qualified for the RMR as well, and they've been looking pretty good with NPL and hat trick. So I think it's just a nice rare occasion for them, and I'm sure they will care a lot about the result here since they don't really get to go out, and it's just before the RMR. So I'm sure they're looking to do as good as possible to get some confidence and to see that they can match up against these teams. So I'm going to be looking at them for sure.
It's tournament opener as well. It's the derby because it's that's what I was going to say, but I can change it slightly. I can make it
an
Wrinkle
IP,
v
you mean?
Hedrick. Yeah, like Hedrick v NIP. Because Wrinkle has kind of trended down a little bit since he first joined. I think that's always the thing with aggressive AWPers. But yeah, I mean, my narrative, I can change it. I will be watching Sangal at RES instead.
Okay.
Because I want to see if Sangal are good on LAN. Because I wanted to see if Bait were good on LAN, but only Striker's allowed to do that now. So I'm going to watch Sangal instead.
Fluxo is there with Art. I thought you'd be excited about that one.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be great. I mean, the guy they signed, I'm not even gonna try and say his name. Like Piri.
Yeah,
I'm just
Junior.
gonna say Piri. He's at least like rating wise, he's been nuts. I'm not gonna pretend to have watched a game, but he seems like the latest Brazilian wonder kid that might be fun. I mean, Fnatic are there as well.
True.
So
There's some decent teams,
there's
but
some
they're
two
like
decent lands going on. But you kind of wish like it was the 4 best teams of both for the same one.
Yeah. That's a fair surmise.
But we don't get nice things.
Oh, Christmas is coming. Maybe we get something then. All right. Cool. Everyone cool?
Everyone
all
cool?
cool.
All right. Well, first of all, I just want to apologize to all of our fantastic, lovely viewers for my internet issues today, causing some qualms. I'm not sure what the problem is. I will go and attempt to rectify it for future episodes. I want to thank Harry for coming on and joining us and helping to explain why rating 2.1 is why it is. And of course, I want to thank our lovely sponsors, Skin Place. If you're in the market to sell skins, head over to Skin Place. And 1xBet, remember to gamble responsibly. Do we have anything else that we want to add, gentlemen? Is everyone happy?
No.
Okay, everyone's happy. Good night. We'll see everybody next week, the 22nd. It'll be a Tuesday. We'll be having Graham Messio. So we'll pit on and we'll be talking a little bit broader regarding next year, 2025, and the partner leagues and, what it might look like. So thank you all for your time. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Changing, but one thing remains the same: victories with 1xBet.
Sell in-game items at the best prices in just a couple of clicks. We are the biggest instant sell service for in-game items like Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, and Rust. Easy selling process and instant withdrawal of funds to the most popular payment methods. More than 140,000 deals and 50,000 active sellers every month. Use promo code HLTV5 and get a 5% bonus on the sale of your skins. Skin Place. Sell items now.
Since the dawn of CSGO, we have been there. Observers of all that competition can reveal. Elation, fear, triumph, and heartache reach out from every frame. From the small studios and conference rooms to the epic arenas, the feeling is still the same. We live and breathe this game. This was CSGO Through the Lens. Buy now at hltv.org/shop.